story kicks off by explaining that when humans hit 15 years old, they're granted magical power through something called the Rite of Aptitude ceremony. When the priest performs the appraisal, the seed of magic awakens inside them, and they finally learn what their magical aptitude is. Alto, this dark-haired kid, is sitting in an ornate ceremonial room waiting for his turn. Then Lily, a blonde girl who happens to be Alto's childhood friend, reminds him that the ceremony also reveals their magic type and how many spells they can use at once. Alto acknowledges this with a nod. The thing is, depending on how the ceremony goes, even a commoner can gain the status of a noble. It's that big of a deal. Lily adds that Alto's father actually rose from commoner all the way to marquis thanks to his magical aptitude, so there's definitely some pressure there. Alto mentions that it feels like their whole lives are being decided today, which is honestly kind of scary when he thinks about it. Lily agrees and comments that she heard finding a job is really hard if someone's aptitude turns out low. Then, noticing the time, Lily tells Alto they should get going. The two of them walk together through what looks like rain. Lily questions why Alto is wearing that same outfit even on a day like this, like seriously. Alto responds that choosing clothes is just a pain in his opinion. Lily points out that they're childhood friends, so she should know how he is by now, but she adds that she only has the same clothes too. Still, she insists he could have at least dressed up for today, reminding him this is literally a once-in-a-lifetime ceremony. But Alto argues that clothes worn only once aren't cost-effective, classic Alto logic. Lily yells back that he's way too obsessed with cost performance. She reminds him that when a girl dresses up, he should at least compliment her. Alto questions whether she'd really feel happy being complimented on clothes anyway. Lily responds that normally someone would be happy about it. She explains that even if he's not interested, just a single word from him can make someone happy, and in his terms, she'd call that pretty cost-effective. Alto pauses for a second, then tells her it's beautiful. Lily reacts with surprise and happiness. Alto admits she was right. But then Lily's reaction becomes dramatically overblown with spiral eyes and exaggerated excitement. Alto just stands there awkwardly, realizing this isn't quite what he imagined. Meanwhile, Lily continues her over-the-top reaction while Alto looks increasingly uncomfortable. Lily observes that it looks like Alto has loosened up a bit now. Someone nearby notes that Alto, who's usually unshakable, actually seemed nervous for once. As they walk, they spot the grand church building in the distance. Lily points out that she can see it. That's the church where they're holding the ceremony. Inside the church, the priest announces that they will now begin the aptitude ceremony. He calls for John to step forward. The priest performs the magic aptitude appraisal ritual, holding a glowing orb as power surges around him. Then the results come back showing only 2 magic circuits, which is the lowest level. The thing is, for professions like knights and adventurers who fight while maintaining barriers, as glamorous as they sound, this is basically a death sentence. Here's how the system breaks down. With 4 circuits, someone can use 1 barrier and 3 attacks simultaneously. But with only 2 circuits, they can only manage 1 barrier and 1 attack. The difference is huge. The priest continues reading John's results, listing water and ice magic at E rank. Then comes the growth aptitude rating. Here's the brutal reality. Growth aptitude F requires 10,000 experience points for a single level up. Hold up. Smash like and subscribe for more hidden manga gems. Now, I dare you to comment, I'm loving it. I bet most of you won't do it. Alright, let's continue. After 5 participants have finished the aptitude ritual, the ceremony continues. The next person called is Sasha, and someone observes that with those magic circuits and growth aptitude, becoming an adventurer would be difficult. Then Lily's name gets called next. She tells Alto that she's going now and approaches the ceremonial area. Lily walks forward nervously, hands clasped together as she climbs the stairs and approaches the ornate chair where the priest waits. The priest begins the magic aptitude appraisal on her, and suddenly a bearded man watching the ceremony reacts with an expression of complete shock. Then the priest announces the result, 7 magic circuits. Alto can barely process it and Lily looks just as shocked. Someone else reacts in disbelief. But then comes the growth aptitude rating, displayed with a massive X rank symbol. The priest continues reading through Lily's stats. Barrier magic A, flame magic A, water ice magic A, holy magic S, dark magic A, physical magic A, enhancement magic A, appraisal magic A. Every single branch of magic ranked A or higher. The observers lose their minds. Someone notes that even a single B rank would make someone a powerful adventurer, while another person comments that she has circuits enough to etch her name in history alongside top-tier adventurers and renowned knights. They can't believe someone like this actually exists, a prodigy among millions. The crowd erupts with excitement. Someone shouts that maybe a hero will be born in their generation, while others wonder what kind of job Lily will be assigned to. Meanwhile, some church officials debate whether they should report to the king immediately or arrange a direct audience instead. A man with a serious expression tells Lily that she's going to have an audience with the king, and another official apologizes for the suddenness but tells her to go with the priest. Lily just stands there looking nervous and overwhelmed. Alto thinks to himself that he can't believe Lily had that kind of power hidden inside her. He's happy for her, but somehow it feels like his childhood friend has gone somewhere far away. Then the priest calls out the next name, Alto. His expression shifts to shock as reality hits him, and he walks down the stairs toward the ceremonial chair. Alto's mind races as he approaches, telling himself he doesn't need to be like Lily. At least give him enough magical aptitude to become a knight. The priest begins the magic aptitude appraisal ritual and the orb glows with power. The announcement starts magic circuits. The number appears, 1. Alto's face goes blank with shock. The priest announces the result, 1 magic circuit. Lily asks if he could please say that again and the priest confirms it. 1. Someone in the crowd notes that this is the first they've ever heard of such a result. Another person realizes that with just 1 circuit, if Alto sets up a barrier, he can't do anything else. The crowd murmurs in disbelief, just 1 circuit. The examination continues as Alto kneels there in shock, his complete stats being revealed. Alto sits there sweating, barely able to process what's happening. It feels completely impossible. Meanwhile, the ceremony continues around him, and the priest calls for the next participant, Reina. Alto walks away from the ceremonial area, completely dejected, as other examinees move through the hall and the rituals go on. Alto stands alone, the weight of everything crushing down on him. He can't even become a knight now, not even an adventurer, and he doesn't even have a chance to succeed in an ordinary job. Later, he returns home to the family estate, and his father spots him immediately, demanding to know when he got back. But Alto barely has time to respond before his father continues, saying he heard about the appraisal results. Alto's father doesn't waste any time. He orders Alto to leave the house at once. Alto stands there in shock as his father tells him he's a disgrace to the Wellesley family and that the heirship will pass to Alto's younger brother instead. Just like that, Alto finds himself standing outside the estate gates, cast out. Then his father delivers the final blow. He tells Alto to never call himself a Wellesley again. The words hit like a physical blow, and Alto stands there outside the mansion gates, small and alone, while his father looms above from inside the estate. Everything he had, everything he was, gone in an instant. Alto walks alone down an empty street, carrying his belongings in a small bag. His magic circuits and all his affinities are ranked F, and he reflects on how hard it already is to get a normal job, and now he's been kicked out of his home. The reality crashes down on him and tears stream down his face as the weight of his situation becomes unbearable, and he wonders how he's supposed to keep living from now on. A loud, angry voice cuts through the air. A bald, muscular supervisor yells at Alto, calling him no skill and demanding he get things organized. The scene shows a warehouse or construction area from above, with Alto standing among stacks of materials and other workers scattered around. Alto snaps to attention and quickly responds that he'll get on it. Alto tries to manage through each day as best he can. Meanwhile, Lily observes from a distance, noting that this rookie just landed his first job and people are already calling him no skills. Alto stares at the shelves, trying to figure out what he's supposed to do with this task. The supervisor barks at him to hurry up since there's still plenty of work left. Later, Alto stares down at the handful of coins he earned. He worked all day and this is all he gets. Reality is grueling, low-wage labor where he's barely surviving each day. Then the work day winds down. A muscular coworker tells Alto good work but adds that he's not done yet. Alto had been thinking about going to bed early tonight, but the coworker reminds him that Alto was the one who said he'd do self-improvement. The boss stands nearby and confirms with a knowing smile that Alto did indeed say that. The unpaid overtime keeps piling on. Eventually, Alto collapses from exhaustion in the warehouse. He tries to stay positive, telling himself he should just be glad someone with no skills like him even got a job. But despite his exhaustion, Alto forces himself back up and continues working hard, organizing and cleaning with renewed determination showing on his face. Someone struggles with heavy lumber, grunting under the weight. Meanwhile, Alto works with his own load, thinking about how much easier this would be on both time and energy if he could use magic imagining being able to make the lumber float and move it around easily. The warehouse stretches out around them as the work continues. Later that night, Alto finally collapses from exhaustion. He realizes he's too tired to even make it back to the inn and decides he'll just have to stay at the warehouse again tonight, the night sky looming overhead as another brutal day ends. Alto wonders how long it's been since he last got back to the inn, trying to remember how many nights he's been staying at the warehouse. His stomach growls and he realizes he's hungry, the warehouse looking emptier in the dim light as Alto pushes through another shift. Then the next day arrives and Alto barely managed to sleep for 2 hours. He stares down at something in his hand, completely exhausted and running on fumes. Suddenly, Lily approaches the warehouse counter and asks if there's a boy named Alto here about her age. Alto spots her and freezes in shock. The bald supervisor responds to Lily, noting what a rare and cute customer they have, but unfortunately he tells her they don't have anyone like that here. Lily insists there has to be someone who knows him, she's absolutely sure of it, and she pleads with them to let her meet him just for a little while. Meanwhile, Alto watches from the shadows, his mind racing. Lily is now someone with a promised future, and he pictures her in an elegant dress surrounded by nobles and important people. Then there's him, a no-skill loser with no status and a low income. He can't understand why Lily would choose him when there's a heaven and earth difference in status between them now. Alto slumps against the materials, realizing he can't even face Lily anymore. Back at the counter, the supervisor tries to deflect Lily's request, even if she insists they can't help her. Lily hesitates for a moment, then decides she doesn't really want to use this, but she pulls something out anyway. Lily presents a document to the men. The bald supervisor squints at it and asks what that scrap of paper is supposed to be. But then his expression suddenly changes as he realizes what he's looking at. The supervisor's face goes pale with shock. The situation shifts instantly. Lily corrects herself, saying that Alto, yes, that Alto, her mistake, she'll call him right now. Then Alto hears his name being shouted through the warehouse and wonders why this is all happening so suddenly. The document gets revealed to be a letter of introduction from the Knight Commander, which basically means the country itself is guaranteeing her identity, and apparently services from Knight Commander Lawrence are restricted to those under 18. The bald supervisor urgently tells his staff not to offend her under any circumstances. He turns to Alto and tells him it's fine, that he'll be right back. Then the supervisor warns Alto not to say anything that would disgrace the guild that took him in. They're letting Lily use the meeting room as a special exception, treating her like royalty basically. The supervisor tries to spin it as Alto showing them how wonderful this guild is, trying to get the knights on their side. But Alto recognizes the supervisor's angle immediately. The guy has it completely backward. He should be the one flattering the young lady, not pushing this whole thing onto Alto. Meanwhile, the bald supervisor tells Lily not to worry, that Alto just finished his work so they were wrapping things up. He mentions that leaving work on time is only natural after all. Lily calls out to Alto as he stands there, and Alto sees her just thinking about Lily standing before him. The supervisor desperately insists she should take her time, practically begging at this point. Lily thanks him politely for his concern. They move to the meeting room, and Lily asks Alto how he's doing since it's been a while, noting that he doesn't look so well and asking if he's okay. Alto tells her he's alright, though the situation is complicated. When Lily asks what kind of job Alto is working at this guild now, Alto thinks to himself that the situation is really complicated. An overhead view shows them sitting at opposite ends of a table in the meeting room, and the distance between them feels pretty significant. Then Lily mentions she got accepted into the Royal Knight Academy. Alto congratulates her, though his response seems kind of uncertain. Meanwhile, the Royal Knight Academy is an institution for training knights. If someone passes the knight selection exam, they can become a knight. For someone like Lily with legendary-level magical aptitude and the perfect number of circuits, it makes perfect sense. If she had a letter of recommendation from the Knight Commander, the kingdom might have even invited her to enroll. Lily says she heard the entrance ceremony for midterm transfer students is next week, and once she enrolls, she'll be living in the dorms, so they probably won't see each other for a while. Alto tells her he's rooting for her, but he's hiding his true feelings. Alto thinks to himself that it's awful, but at the same time, part of him feels relieved. With this, Lily and he are on completely separate paths now, and they'll never cross again. He pictures her walking away into her bright future, leaving him behind. But then Lily shifts the conversation. She's not good at beating around the bush, so she'll just be honest with him. She went to Alto's house the day after the aptitude ceremony. When Lily asked the priest about Alto, he told her that Alto was a no-skill. But when she went to the house, the servant told her there was no one named Alto in the mansion. She had heard about Alto's father before, how Marquis Wellesley also rose from commoner status thanks to his magical aptitude. The results of the aptitude ceremony can really shape someone's life, and apparently it happened way too fast for Alto. So Lily asked the priest to introduce her to the knights, investigated on her own, and finally today managed to track Alto down. Lily starts crying as she tells Alto that when she heard he was kicked out of his house, she didn't know what she'd do if he wasn't anywhere to be found. Alto just stares at her in shock, completely overwhelmed by her reaction. Lily yells that having no skill doesn't matter at all. Alto struggles to understand why she even cares so much. Someone like him with no skill has no value at all. Then Lily covers her face with her hands, pleading with Alto not to silently disappear somewhere again. Alto just stands there and calls out her name, realizing there are people who actually cared for him this much. Lily completely breaks down, dramatic lines radiating around her as she tells him he was called no skill and convinced himself he was a worthless person. Alto stares ahead with growing determination. He thinks to himself that even if there's just one person who accepts his existence, that's enough. No matter what his father or the guild members say, that one person matters. Alto apologizes to Lily for making her worry, telling her he's okay now. The scene shows both their faces in close-up. Alto looks resolute and determined, while Lily has tears still streaming down her cheeks. Lily tells Alto not to make her worry like that again. She says that if it's him, he should be breezing through guild work with that calm, composed look of his. But Alto admits the work efficiency was really terrible for him. Lily smiles warmly and tells him the moment he gets better, he's already thinking about efficiency. She adds that she's glad his usual self is back. A few days later, Alto stands on a path and tells himself to give it a try. Since then, he's been working to make his daily tasks more efficient. The scene shows the supervisor yelling at him to clean at 10 o'clock and collect the tableware while Alto works with a clipboard. He started thinking about ways to improve and focused on developing his work performance. Alto reflects that he's still being made fun of in the guild, but it's not a big deal. Today he managed to shave some work time for a change. As a result, there are now days he can actually go home, and he's been able to secure enough sleep. Then Alto walks down a hallway, determined to practice his magic properly for Lily and for himself. A smaller figure trails behind him as he wonders if maybe it's because Lily talks with him every day. He guesses sometimes a person recovers more energy than from sleeping when reading manhwa. She comes all the way to the inn to see him. The supervisor approaches Alto and tells him that from now on, he's coming along with the adventure party as a helper. They're gathering a huge amount of materials, so they need the extra hands. Alto asks if that's really okay. But the supervisor just yells at Alto that even if he's got no skill, he at least needs to make sure he can use basic barrier magic. Alto responds with this super enthusiastic expression. Then Alto stares at something in front of him, realizing he's given up on magic so much that he hasn't even checked his status. Suddenly, he sees a status window displayed right before him and reacts with total surprise at finally seeing it. The status window shows all these game-like entries with information about calories, kai carving, color-produced content, and other stats. Everything going all the way back to rice noodles. Alto notes that it's only natural everything's at 1, since he's literally never used magic even once. Meanwhile, Alto realizes he needs to earn 10,000 experience points just to level up. The system explains that each time he uses a skill, he gains 1 experience point. But there are other ways to gain experience too, like defeating monsters and clearing dungeons for additional experience points. The comparison hits hard. For normal people, leveling up takes about 10 experience points, and as the level rises, the amount needed increases gradually. A normal person only needs to use a skill 100 times to level up. Level 2 requires 200 experience, level 3 needs 300, and level 4 takes 400. But in Alto's case, he has to use a skill 10,000 times just to reach level 2. Level 3 would need 30,000 experience, and level 4 requires a whopping 40,000. The difference between him and everyone else is literally 1 to 100. Alto reflects on the massive problem facing him. The huge amount of experience needed to level up means his magic growth suffers from a double whammy of penalties that can all be activated at once. On top of that, if someone has multiple magic circuits, they can activate multiple skills at once. Using 3 skills at a time means experience gain increases simultaneously. But Alto only has 1 magic circuit, so the rate at which he gains experience is way slower than normal. When he uses 1 skill at a time, he only earns experience for that 1 skill. He thinks about the barrier magic that even he can use, but comes to a grim conclusion no matter how he looks at it, he's completely screwed. Then Alto opens a newly released magic instruction book and finds what he's looking for. If he recites the chant, he should be able to use magic. He focuses on the text and begins. A moment later, Alto successfully casts Body Barrier, his face lighting up with surprise and excitement as the spell actually works. He examines how the barrier functions. Turns out the thing they call life is actually barrier durability. The gauge keeps the barrier up and blocks attacks, but when the gauge runs out, the barrier disappears and he takes damage. For now though, he managed to activate it. His status shows barrier magic level 1 at 1 out of 10,000 experience. The number's definitely increasing, but Alto wonders how long this is gonna take. Then a notification appears, announcing that automatic magic has awakened due to the use of magic. Alto just stares at his updated status screen in confusion. His magic circuit 1 now shows automatic magic level 1 at 0 out of 10,000, marked as new. Below it, barrier magic sits at level 1 with 1 out of 10,000. Then comes a full list: flame magic, water ice magic, holy magic, dark magic, physical magic, enhancement magic, and appraisal magic, all at level 1 with 0 progress. Alto's left questioning what automatic magic even is. A system prompt pops up, asking Alto to write down the magic he wants to auto-activate in text slot 1. The instructions explain that to activate the magic, he should picture it in his mind and use either the title or the starting number. Alto processes this information thinking he just has to think about it. He wonders if text 1 means something like fireball as an example. Then another display confirms the starting process for activating fireball. Alto watches in complete shock as the fireball activates. The skill triggered without any chanting, something he's never heard of before. The level 1 indicator appears as the system confirms the activation process, but then the display shows that he can register multiple skills in text slot 1 and use them consecutively. Suddenly, system notifications appear one after another, activating magic buff. Alto realizes the magics are triggering in the exact order he listed them. He notices something else odd though, his barrier hasn't disappeared yet. Looking at his status screen, Alto sees that automatic magic increased his experience points just by the number of activation. But the real breakthrough hits him when he understands what automatic magic actually does. It doesn't use any magic circuits at all. Instead, the automatic magic itself triggers the registered skills in their place. Alto's mind races as he considers the possibilities with this system. He could even perform layered enchantments that normally need a magic circuit or spam magic non-stop. Then the realization dawns on him that this could mean unlimited experience grinding. The system displays more information, showing him the syntax for setting repetitions using a specific format. Alto wonders if he can specify even more repetitions from here, and his excitement builds as he realizes he can efficiently level up his magic, the same magic that once felt completely hopeless. Becoming a knight might still be difficult, but maybe he can become an adventurer instead. Lily asks Alto if that was a joke, but Alto responds that he'll try it once. He still finds it unbelievable, the idea of casting without a chant. The two of them sit on the stairs as Alto prepares to test his new ability. The system displays text confirming the magic buff activation. Suddenly, Lily exclaims that it really worked, clearly amazed. She can't believe Alto has such a unique skill. Alto admits he didn't know about it himself until today. He explains that a unique skill is a special type of magic that can't be classified into the 8 basic magic system. Examples include Sword Saint, a world-famous and powerful skill that dramatically improves sword technique and movement, and Clairvoyance, the ability to see anywhere while staying in place. Then Alto explains how his unique skill works differently from normal magic. Usually people need to chant each spell one by one to activate their skills, but in his case, the automatic magic activates skills without him doing anything at all. Lily gets excited about the implications. No one can beat Alto in activation speed with this ability, and with that kind of advantage, he can definitely become strong. But Alto points out it's not just about triggering spells continuously. He could apply the automatic activation by taking some other action during that time, and the most curious thing he wants to test is whether automatic magic can activate even while he's asleep. Lily agrees enthusiastically, saying she's really looking forward to seeing what happens next. Alto imagines himself facing down a massive dragon in a dark dungeon cave, but then Lily brings up the obvious problem. Sure, automatic magic is amazing, but he can't exactly sleep inside a dungeon. Alto clarifies that's not what he meant though. He realizes the real potential here. Starting tonight, it's possible for him to gain experience points with ultra-high efficiency, and that's the actual problem he needs to solve. Lily suggests that maybe he can gain experience automatically while he sleeps, and Alto sits there quietly thinking about it. He admits he's always thought sleep was kind of a waste, spending a fifth of the day unconscious just to recover stamina. Lily calls him out on that, saying that's so typical of him as the efficiency nerd. Alto seems genuinely confused, asking if that view isn't normal. Then Alto considers the safety concerns. He's a little scared something might accidentally go off if he unleashes a bunch of skills while sleeping, but then again, he could check the results by gradually increasing the number of activations each night. Lily points out that Alto's probably the first person in history to even try activating a skill while sleeping, but Alto counters that any other approach would just be inefficient. Lily's face goes completely blank at his response. Then Lily comes up with what she thinks is a great idea. She suggests staying over tonight to keep an eye on Alto. Alto says it's a good idea and agrees that if anything happens, she'll wake him. But then he reconsiders. He appreciates the suggestion, but wouldn't that be terribly inefficient for Lily herself? Though he admits it's more efficient for him personally. Suddenly, Lily flushes at the implications of what she just suggested. The scene notes that sharing a night under the same roof must be making even Alto feel something, given how rare it is for him to be at a loss for words. Meanwhile, Alto realizes what Lily's really after and says that's not exactly what he meant. Lily stands in the doorway looking completely flustered, trying to recover from her own suggestion. But Alto calls her out on it directly, asking if she's planning to ask for something in return. Lily realizes she's been caught and admits there might be something going on. Then Alto points out that 2 days from now is his day off. Lily confirms that's right and says she'll ask for one thing then. Meanwhile, there's apparently a guild appreciation party coming up once a year for assistants. But Alto mentions he can't join and isn't really interested anyway. So Lily brings up her request. Since tomorrow is the entrance ceremony for the Royal Knight Academy, she wants to get everything she needs and asks if Alto could go shopping with her. Alto acknowledges that he doesn't really like crowded places in town. Alto sits there thinking about the possibilities. If he uses automated magic, he can train in parallel while doing other things, so in that case, even shopping might not be such a bad idea. He reflects on how up until now he thought spending money on anything unnecessary or wasting time browsing stores was pointless. But maybe it would be good to take a look around town for the first time in a while. Lily thinks about how when she starts school, they won't be able to see each other for a while. She admits she can't help feeling a little lonely about that. Alto says he doesn't have much money to spare right now, but he'll tag along while Lily shops if she's okay with that. Lily responds that even if he did have money, she still can't imagine Alto being eager to go shopping. That night, Alto sleeps while Lily watches over him from nearby. She looks at his sleeping face and notes it hasn't changed since back then. Lily thinks about their shared history. She and Alto were born on the same day and have been together ever since. She remembers when they were kids and Alto decided to become a knight. She admits she also started dreaming of becoming a knight herself, like she was being pulled along with him. Lily continues watching Alto sleep, thinking about how she really thought they would always be together. But then reality sets in. In a class-based society, the gap between ranks only grows wider with time. When she heard the Royal Knight Academy was a boarding school, she couldn't give an immediate yes to enrolling. Looking at Alto's father and family in her mind, she realizes that this will inevitably be her final farewell to Alto. Lily reflects on her feelings. When she first found out about turning down enrollment, she was conflicted. But seeing such a lively Alto today changed something in her. She thinks about their shared dream of becoming knights together and wonders if it's still okay to hold on to that dream. His unique skill seems pretty strong, and his auto magic seems fine too. In her memory, she sees young Alto as she tells him she's going to become a knight. Morning rolls around and Alto wakes up to find Lily still asleep, so he decides to let her rest a bit longer. But as he sits there, a system notification pops up explaining that his sleep training test for the 5000 magic buff got suspended due to mana depletion, and it'll resume once his mana recovers. The message advises him to cancel processing next time to avoid this whole issue. Alto realizes the skill was actually working properly since Lily didn't wake him up, so he decides to cancel it for now. Then Alto gets excited realizing he can train even while asleep. He thinks about the drawback of running out of mana, but understands that mana naturally recovers like stamina if he just leaves it alone without activating any skills. The limitation just means he can't use any skills during recovery. Alto checks his status and sees his experience went up by 80 overnight. His auto magic is sitting at level 1 with 100% completion at 10,000, and his flowerless magic leveled up to Elvone with 803 out of 10,000 points. He accidentally wakes Lily while getting excited about the automatic magic progress, and Lily groggily asks what's going on. At work, the warehouse supervisor yells at Alto to work harder. Alto responds energetically while continuing his tasks. As he works, Alto reflects on his situation. Just because he awakened automatic magic doesn't mean he'll suddenly get stronger. He still needs way more experience points to level up than anyone else, and his skill power hasn't increased. The atmosphere at work and keeping his skill active all the time is starting to wear him out. Despite the harsh conditions, Alto finds a silver lining. He feels like he's getting stronger all the time, no matter when or where he is. Having something that makes it easy to keep working hard gives him the motivation he needs. Later on, Alto and Lily arrive in Minton for their shopping trip. Alto looks around and observes that it's actually quite a big city as they walk through the busy market streets together. After shopping for a while, Alto notices they've bought quite a lot and asks if they can even carry all this. But Lily demonstrates by using float magic to levitate their purchases, and someone nearby comments on her using magic to carry everything. Lily cheerfully suggests they head to the next store. Then Lily announces this is the last shop. Alto points out they already went to a clothing store earlier, but Lily admits that's true, she just wants the stuff from this particular store. Lily tells Alto it'll probably take a while, so why doesn't he go check out that training center over there? Alto accepts this is just how shopping goes with her. Alto asks what kind of facility that is. Lily responds by asking if he doesn't know about it. Turns out most people can't just train attack-type skills freely wherever they want. Lily explains there's this facility called a training center, where anyone can fire off low-level skills. as much as they want without worrying about property damage or anything. Alto figures it must cost money though because nothing's ever free. But then Alto reacts in surprise when Lily drops the news. Since he's an employee there and the place is partnered with the guild, he doesn't need to pay a single coin. Alto tells Lily he'll head out to the training center right away. He enters the Minton Training Center, but the moment he steps inside, he's surprised by how crowded it is, like seriously packed. Someone nearby asks why it's so jammed today of all days. Apparently monsters have been appearing lately around the town of Minton, on mountain roads, and even in the mines, which is causing all the commotion and panic. Someone reflects that their guild's requests have gone up too, and they've been seriously short on hands to handle everything. Another person wonders out loud which task to take priority on. Then the realization hits. This is exactly why they called Alto in as a gopher in the first place. Alto decides to try out all his attack-type skills at the training center since he's already there. A few hours later, Lily finds Alto and calls out to him. She tells him she's done shopping and asks what he's been up to. Alto explains he just ran out of mana and was taking a break, figuring that's probably it for training today. Then Alto celebrates that they really got to use the facility for free. Lily tells him she told him so, but Alto gets all excited about the top performance with zero cost, calling it the best bang for the buck. Then he asks Lily about the luggage. Lily explains there was a traveling merchant who also does transport work, so she entrusted the luggage to them. She thanks Alto and Heiko for the day. Alto says he just tagged along and asks if she's really okay with that. Lily responds that it's fun to walk around and look at things together when shopping, though she notes that Alto has gotten pretty obsessed with cost performance. Lily mentions that starting tomorrow they won't be able to chat together like this for a while, then she trails off, saying there's also something else. Alto responds that she's right. He thinks to himself that what she does is really amazing. Meanwhile, Alto reflects internally that it's thanks to Lily always pulling him forward that he is who he is. If it weren't for Lily, he probably would have been all alone, and even now he might not be able to keep looking up. Then Lily tells Alto there's something she wants him to hear. She asks Alto if he remembers the day he told her about his dream. She recalls how back then she was crying over something small and he told her to cheer up. Alto had said that even when things are hard, someday an ally would come to save her. He'd promised that even if no one comes, he could become her knight and come rescue her, so it would be okay. Suddenly the scene shifts to a memory of them as kids sitting together under a tree. Alto asks when this was. Lily thinks back she was around 8 years old or so. Alto reflects on how, even for a kid, he really jumped ahead of himself with that kind of talk. But Lily asks if that's really the part he finds embarrassing. She explains that back then she didn't really have a goal, just playing around was enough to have fun. But after spending time with Alto, she started to want to become a knight together with him. Alto tells her he thinks she could become a first-rate knight who leads the country, adding that she's about to take the very first step toward making that dream come true. Then Lily asks if Alto was even listening. She clarifies that her dream is to become a knight together with Alto, so entering the academy first just means she's getting a little head start toward the starting line. Alto responds that it might take him a little while, but he'll definitely catch up to her. He asks her to wait for him. Lily agrees, saying she'll be waiting. The moment feels like a renewed promise between them. Then Lily tells Alto she has something for him. She hands him what appears to be some kind of protective accessory, explaining it's made with scales from a dragon a knight defeated. It's thin and doesn't need maintenance, so it shouldn't be a hassle for him. Alto thanks her. Alto mentions he's never seen a shop selling accessories like this. Lily explains that the only place around here is in Minton, which is why they had to travel a bit today. Alto realizes the whole shopping trip was carefully planned out. Lily tells him it really suits him and looks cool, confirming that she'd planned this all along. Alto thanks her somewhat awkwardly. Lily asks Alto if it feels nice to get complimented on his outfit, and Alto agrees that yeah, it does feel pretty good. Then the scene jumps forward half a year after the aptitude ceremony. Alto's now inside a low-class dungeon, taking on a request to exterminate poison rabbits. The whole area is packed with other low-level adventurers dealing with the same kinds of problem. So here's the thing with poison rabbits. They damage crops if left alone, which is why low-ranking adventurers get sent out to deal with them. The problem is, even when someone defeats them, they barely get any experience points, making this quest super unpopular among adventurers. Alto activates Fireball to take one down, but for him though, it's just right for training and earning a bit of cash on the side. Alto thinks maybe he should take a break soon since only poison rabbits show up around here anyway. He takes down his 20th one, noting the poison stone dropped easily this time. He decides to check his stats while he's got a moment. Suddenly, a game-like status screen appears with various stats and numbers displayed all over it. The screen explains that ordinary magic usually unlocks a stronger tier of spells once it surpasses a certain level, showing his physical enhancement stats right there. Alto wonders if it's actually a unique skill after all, then decides since he's come this far, he might as well push through all the way to level 1. A notification pops up showing that conditional activation has become available. Alto realizes he finally reached level 3 with his auto magic, reflecting that it paid off to keep his automatic magic running non-stop for half a year straight. Alto wonders about this whole conditional branching feature, like, if he sets conditions, will it automatically judge and activate the skill on its own? He looks at the condition syntax shown on the screen. If a poison rabbit appears, then fireball, and if. He questions if this is actually how it works and decides to try looking for a poison rabbit to test it out. He searches the area, and suddenly fireball activates completely on its own. The fireball automatically strikes a poison rabbit before Alto even spots the thing. He's completely amazed that he hadn't even seen the poison rabbit yet, and it just took it down automatically without him doing anything. Alto realizes the insane potential of this system. If the conditions are set beforehand, it'll activate magic on its own without his will being involved at all. Up until now, Alto could only keep continuously activating skills manually. Even when he accompanied adventurers as a porter, all he could do was keep firing buffs and never be of any direct help in battle. But from now on, if he sets it to shoot a fireball whenever a poison rabbit appears, he can hunt poison rabbits automatically even while he's asleep. This is truly the essence of automatic magic, and Alto realizes what an absolutely unfitting ability this is for someone like him. He decides to keep taking them down. Later, Alto arrives at a new location. This is the first time he's come here where they sell weapons directly other than his own. The narration explains there are broadly two types of guilds. One type accepts quests and solves them within their own guild, which is the kind Alto works for. The other type gathers requests widely and introduces jobs to other adventurers or parties, while also taking on some jobs themselves in their spare time. This is the kind of guild Alto took a job from this time. Alto approaches the counter and tells the receptionist he'd like to exchange them, please. The female guild receptionist just stares at the massive pile of poison rabbit materials in complete shock, asking if this is really this many. She asks if he's been holding on to them without exchanging until now. Alto explains he actually picked them today and has just gotten way more efficient at exterminating. The receptionist admits she's never heard of someone exterminating this many in a single day. Alto casually adds that he also has some herbs from a side quest and asks if she could take care of those too. By keeping appraisal magic continuously auto-activating, Alto's system now notifies him about plants. On his right, there's a numbflower. There's anticoagulant grass over there. When he set it to notify him whenever it detects a herb, things got ridiculously efficient. The receptionist reacts in total disbelief, asking if he gathered herbs today too and this many at the same time. She examines the collection more closely and suddenly notices something. This is mere grass. The narration explains that unless it's a high-level appraisal spell, normally someone would have to appraise 10 times just to find this herb. No offense, but an adventurer at Alto's level couldn't possibly discover this herb. The receptionist confirms that assessment herself. Alto suggests that maybe it just happened to get mixed in with the other materials. The receptionist calls it a coincidence. 1 hour later, the receptionist hands Alto his payment, and someone watching comments in amazement that it's several days' worth of guild earnings in just one day. The receptionist suggests to Alto that maybe he should quit the guild and make gathering his main job instead. But Alto declines, saying gathering is fun and all, but he's got something he's aiming for, so he'll pass. Meanwhile, inside a low-class dungeon, an adventurer leader yells for everyone to head out. Thanks to the automatic magic's conditional branching function, they can complete gathering quests way more efficiently, and the porter work at the guild is important too. Alto begins his process, activating his magic skill buff as he and the others prepare for the dungeon run. Inside the dungeon, Alto realizes that even though he's just a porter, he still gains experience from clearing dungeons. The system explains that enhancement magic buffs last for a while once cast, so using multiple magic circuits to stack them on allies during quests earns more experience points than casting them on himself. Alto thinks about how anyone can earn experience alone, but accumulating it is way faster in a party. The experience efficiency is amazing. Suddenly, one of the adventurers yells that there's a lizardman ahead. An adventurer charges forward and unleashes Sapphire Lance at the lizardman. The attack connects with devastating force. Multiple strikes rain down on the creature as the party coordinates their assault, and someone praises the successful takedown. Another adventurer roars as he finishes off another enemy. One of them comments that the attack was about right, and another notes that Alto seems to be in a good mood today. But then the tone shifts. Someone barks at Alto to quit dawdling and hurry up to clean this mess up. They remind him that they're the ones nice enough to hire useless trash like him. Another voice tells him this is what he's here for, to move it and clean up. After the dungeon run, one of the adventurers mentions he's been feeling lighter lately. Another one chimes in, saying the quest went nice and easy too. Someone else says it feels good to finally relax now that they're back at the guild. Then the leader dismisses everyone for the day and tells them good work. He turns to Alto, calling him errand boy, and asks if he knows what to do. Alto confirms he does. The adventurer instructs him to get everything sorted by tomorrow, their stuff and all the other adventurers' items same as always. The adventurers start heading off, with one of them suggesting they go for a drink. But before leaving, someone reminds Alto that he has to carefully check each magic stone, since unless he looks at the appraisal results properly, he can't tell what kind of monster it came from. Alto responds that he already knows that. He tells himself to see what they've got today and gets to work. Alto surveys the massive pile of equipment and items from every adventurer who worked today. There's an overwhelming list of things to sort through. Irutrii Division, 4th Dance Shinobi Art, Osio Shin Nimia Ui Fierce Knight Weaving 4060-103 Production, 4th Misc. Medical, Offiv 110 Rise to the West Platform, Rice to the South Platform, and literally dozens more items filling the inventory. Alto thinks to himself that he's got automatic magic after all. Alto starts using the conditional branching feature he learned over the past 6 months to automate the whole sorting process. His system automatically categorizes commonly collected item types: hard ore goes north, magic solution stones go east, flame demon ore goes south, and miscellaneous items get appraised individually before going west. The fewer western ones he has to appraise individually, the better. He can split the process based on the appraisal results he gets and set it to repeat. Alto finishes the individual appraisals and looks at the massive pile of equipment and materials from every adventurer who worked today. Without his automatic magic system, this would seriously take a whole day. Now he just has to wait for the sorting to complete. Meanwhile, Alto decides to make the most of his wait time by efficiently gaining knowledge. He's in his organized warehouse workspace, surrounded by shelves, barrels, and neatly sorted materials. His current stats show Magic Circuit 1 with automatic magic at level 10, sitting at 11,000 out of 100,000 experience points, and appraisal magic at level 9 with 32,500 out of 90,000 experience points. Alto thinks about his promise with Lily and reminds himself that he will never give up. Over the next 2.5 years, Alto keeps training his skills every day while working as a porter for the Adventurers Guild, devoting himself to earning experience points through constant dungeon runs and porter work. Before he knows it, the party he belongs to keeps climbing in rank and has now become the guild's ace team. One of the adventurers celebrates their success, and Alto acknowledges that since they can go to higher dungeons now, it's fine to devote himself to earning experience points. But there's a downside to this situation. An adventurer tells Alto to make sure he gets it all sorted by tomorrow, and Alto responds with his usual designation of no skill. As the adventurers walk away, one of them yells at him to hurry up. Even when the party ranks up, they treat Alto exactly the same as before. He studies magic and dungeons every day and prides himself on having more knowledge than anyone in the guild, but adventurers care only about strength after all. Alto stands alone in the hallway thinking that no one ever listens to what he has to say. Then Alto looks at the massive amount of work ahead of him and activates warehouse organization. There's so much to do today. This task alone would normally need at least 10 people. He's built up a lot of experience points over the years though, so many of his skills have grown to about the level of middling adventurers. 30 minutes later, Alto gets a system notification that his auto magic has leveled up. He's been activating the skill every day for 2.5 years, and when it was level 10, it unlocked conditional branching. Now his auto magic has finally reached level 20 with 0 out of 10,000 experience points needed for the next level. Alto gets a system notification explaining the new multi-skill function. He can now use multi followed by a number of times, then the skill name, then end multi, up to 16 times. Since he's reached level 20, simultaneous activation is now possible. Alto looks at the explanation trying to understand, because until now he couldn't activate multiple skills at exactly the same time. He processes what simultaneous activation at the same time actually means. The system confirms that since he's reached level 20, simultaneous activation is now possible. Suddenly, Alto realizes the implications. This could mean it's possible to stack and fire off attack magic all at once. Alto decides to try it out right away and heads to the training ground behind the guild. He stands in the open area, activates simultaneous activation, and for now sets it to 16 simultaneous activation. The system displays multi-16 fireball end multi, then suddenly, a massive explosion erupts in the training ground, creating a huge blast crater. Alto watches the destruction with wide eyes as the smoke clears. The explosion was powerful enough that a whole person could fit inside the crater it left, and Alto is completely amazed by the result. His lame attack magic, when multiplied by 16, now has power on par with a high-level adventurer. And if he cast an enhancement spell on top of that, the power would be even greater. Thanks to using his skill continuously for 24 hours over these years, his mana capacity is above average, so this technique really pays off. He looks at his system interface showing the multi-16 fireball configuration and prepares to activate simultaneous activation again. Multiple massive explosions tear through the training ground as Alto continues testing his newfound power. The blasts create enormous craters and send debris flying everywhere. The destruction is far beyond anything a basic spell should be capable of producing. Alto stares at the devastation with intense focus. The power is insane, as powerful as a dragon breath, and he can barely contain his excitement as the reality sinks in. With this kind of power, he could become an adventurer, or maybe even get into the Knight Academy. The possibility of finally proving himself is within reach. The next day, the adventurer party that Alto belongs to assembles together. Their leader, a blonde, spiky-haired guy named Irasolido, addresses the group and thanks everyone for gathering. He explains that this morning he was personally summoned by the guildmaster. Over the past 2 years, their guild has been achieving more and more feats, expanding in size like never before. Alto stands there observing the unusually cheerful leader, wondering what's gotten into him since he's usually in such a bad mood. The fact that he's expressing gratitude is completely out of character. Irasolido puts Alto on the spot, asking what the guild should do in times like these, demanding an answer from the no-skill. Alto hesitantly suggests keeping members' morale up through rewards and such, but Irasolido just sighs at the response. Then another party member chimes in, suggesting they should recruit even more capable members instead. Someone else immediately dismisses that idea though, saying that kind of optimistic thinking is exactly why Alto is still just a porter. Irasolido grins and explains the guildmaster said now is the time to stay sharp. The guild wants to make waves that are known throughout the organization. Meanwhile, small creatures discuss how they're too weak, and as the guild gets bigger, more incompetents slip in. But incompetents can't survive in this guild. Suddenly, Irasolido makes his announcement. By the captain's authority, one person from each squad will be chosen and made to leave both their party and the guild, no exceptions. They've decided to carry out a restructuring. With that said, the party members gather in the guild hall. Alto processes what he just heard, but then Irasolido approaches with the rest of the party behind him and delivers the blow. Alto is fired as of today. The words hit Alto like a physical impact. Irasolido makes it clear that dismissing the useless ones was the guild master's order. He demands to know if Alto really thought he could stay in an S-rank party without any skills. Alto tries to defend himself, saying he may not have skills but his magic level hasn't been improving lately. Irasolido cuts him off and tells him to shut up. Alto protests that he's been working as an adventurer for 3 years and he's only about beginner level. Alto points out he may be low tier but he still contributes. But Irasolido throws Alto's own words back at him, asking if he didn't just say it himself. Didn't Alto remind him they need to keep morale up to make the guild grow? Irasolido explodes, saying useless trash like Alto drags down the morale of everyone else and orders him to get out right now. Alto runs from the guild building as Irasolido watches from the entrance. Then a hooded party member speaks up, mentioning that Alto also handled chores for other parties. They were supporting everyone with their buffs and questions if it's really okay to let him go. But Irasolido dismisses the concern, asking what nonsense they're talking about. The hooded figure points out anyone can do chores and there's no need to keep a no-skill around. Then a party member argues that if they hire humans with excellent magic aptitude, their buffs should become even stronger. Suddenly, Irasolido turns on Alto and yells, asking if he's saying someone with no skills is needed in his S-rank party. Alto stammers an apology. Irasolido addresses the entire group, making it clear they have no use for the weak in this guild, tells them to remember that well. Later, Alto lies collapsed on his bed in his small room, staring at the ceiling. He runs a hand through his hair in frustration and defeat, the pendant Lily gave him resting on his chest. Alto remembers Lily giving him the pendant as a present, telling him not to forget their promise. She reminds him to look at the letter and remember, mentions going to be a knight. Then Alto snaps back to reality, questioning if this is really the time to be daydreaming and whether he really needs time to mope. But then Alto gets fired up. With yesterday's skill activation giving him a powerful attack spell, he decides there's no time to hesitate, just needs to move forward to become a solo adventurer. He runs down the guild stairs, while other adventurers discuss how there aren't many parties that would accept someone whose only experience is as a porter, and that spending time searching would be a waste too. Someone calls out to him as porter, but Alto ignores them, deciding to take on a quest right away since it's still morning. Alto approaches the guild receptionist and asks to be introduced to an E-rank subjugation job. The receptionist asks what brings him here today, and Alto explains that up until now, he's only ever taken F-rank requests, just exterminating monsters weak enough to handle without any skills. Lily shows him a paper excitedly, confirming he's challenging the E-rank this time, then suggests a particular quest. Lily explains the quest is for the Black Labyrinth, a dungeon that recently appeared on the outskirts of town. The quest itself is ranked B, but the difficulty ranges from F all the way to B. Only E-rank monsters appear on the first floor. But as he descends deeper underground, the monster levels increase through D, then C, then B-rank floors, so he needs to be careful. Alto thanks her, and standing at the dungeon entrance later, he gets excited about his first solo quest, eager to see how well he can hold his own right now. Back at the guild counter, Lily hands Alto the order sheet, a bag for the dropped items and his current pay. Alto thinks back to his experience in the S-rank party. The simultaneous activation skill he gained is actually perfect for this quest since it should let him take down D-rank monsters. He decides to play it smart and figure out whether to advance or retreat depending on the situation. Alto arrives at the Black Labyrinth dungeon entrance, a massive opening carved into the cliff face. He observes that it appears to be a maze-type dungeon where the map isn't detailed and there are tons of monsters. The high-rank parties that come to defeat the dungeon boss don't want to get worn out in the earlier stages. If there are too many small fry around, adventurers will run out of stamina before reaching the boss. By reducing the number of weak enemies, the high-rank parties can reach the boss more easily, and this lower-ranked clearing work is exactly what falls to people like him. Alto steps inside and immediately notices how spacious everything is. Each passageway is huge. For now, he casts physical enhancement 16 times to buff himself up. He also notices there are tons of traps scattered throughout this dungeon. But fortunately, with his conditional branching skill constantly scanning and alerting him, he can relax and not worry about accidentally triggering them. A goblin appears up ahead, and Alto identifies it as an E-rank monster, perfect for beginners to practice on. He prepares his attack and activates his multicast spell with 16 fireballs. Alto initiates simultaneous activation and launches all 16 fireballs at once. The combined attack creates a massive explosion that fills the entire corridor. The explosion engulfs the dungeon passageway in flames and destruction. When the smoke clears, Alto looks at the devastation he caused and realizes he might have overdone it a bit. Meanwhile, Irascileto defends himself loudly, insisting it wasn't a failure and that he just didn't finish within the time limit for certain reasons. But Lily calmly points out that even at its deepest level, the Black Labyrinth is only B rank and isn't all that large in scale. Irascileto gets defensive and yells at her, asking if she's calling them weak. Irascileto continues insisting they'll definitely complete the dungeon tomorrow, so other parties should stay away. Then as Alto approaches the guild counter, Irascileto notices him and immediately starts mocking him as the useless bastard. He questions why Lily took someone like Alto on a quest alone. The guild receptionist welcomes Alto back and asks him to come over. When she checks his request form and sees he went to the Black Labyrinth for an E-rank monster subjugation, Irascileto laughs at how fitting that is for someone useless. The receptionist asks if Alto managed to defeat the monsters, and Alto confirms he did mentions it wasn't just the first floor either. Both Lily and the receptionist look surprised, but then Alto casually adds that he even beat the boss. Suddenly, the entire guild erupts in shock. Someone yells that there's no way useless Alto took down a B-rank boss. But the dark-haired adventurer from Alto's party examines the magic stone and confirms it's definitely from a minotaur. Lily is stunned that an F-rank adventurer accomplished this, and then Irascileto grabs Alto aggressively, demanding to know what kind of underhanded trick he used. Alto insists he hasn't done anything dishonest, but Irascileto calls him a liar and says he's just an incompetent who can't do anything. Lily tries to intervene, yelling at them to stop, and security staff step in, telling Irascileto they're going to have to ask him to leave. Irascileto protests that he needs to expose Alto's wrongdoing. As Irascileto is being escorted out, he makes excuses about how his strength is off because he was just fighting. Someone tells him they'll listen to his complaints outside, and back at the counter, Alto thanks Lily. She congratulates him once again on defeating the boss, then explains that since he met the required conditions, the guild will issue him a D-rank license. Alto examines his new D-rank license, realizing this means he can take on B-rank jobs right from the start. He thinks to himself that he actually has power on par with A-rank, but then Lily chimes in from behind, mentioning there are regulations about that, though she thinks he'll qualify soon enough. Later, Alto sits down with Lily at a table and thanks her sincerely. The thing is, Alto just realized something huge. He defeated that boss with his own strength, slowly but surely, and for the first time in his life, someone actually acknowledged his abilities. He's finally feeling like he's getting closer to becoming a real knight. Meanwhile, in a forest clearing, Alto's out there practicing his projectile control. One of his attacks goes flying through the trees but completely misses its target. Alto notes that he missed again. Looking at his results, he observes that starting from around the 7th projectile, his control just doesn't work anymore. So Alto continues analyzing his performance, breaking everything down. He reflects that yesterday's solo quest revealed a ton of issues, and he needs to identify the challenges and areas for improvement if he wants to grow more efficiently. He reviews his tactics, noting that when he gets attacked from multiple directions, he could use simultaneous activation for a serious power boost. This meant splitting items up and launching multiple attacks at the same time. But here's the problem: the diagrams in his mind show it clearly. The more skills he uses simultaneously, the harder it gets to control their trajectories. After all that training, he can still only handle 16 projectiles total, but at least he's managed to control around 5 or 6 trajectories now. Alto decides that's good enough for now. Then he checks the time and realizes it's about when the Quest Introduction Guild opens. Alto arrives at the Quest Introduction Guild, and inside, the staff member explains that for solo B-rank quests, there are 3 available right now. One of them involves a dungeon that's already been cleared once, though there are still tons of leftover monsters, so it'll be an extermination quest. Alto requests to take the dungeon in the mine. The blonde guild receptionist processes his request and tells him it's quite vast, so she'll grant him a 2-day permit for extermination, and he's free to take any spoils of war with him. Alto thanks her. Walking away from the guild, Alto's thoughts start racing. Before, no matter how many items he collected with auto magic, everything had to be distributed among the whole party. But now that he can easily defeat a B-rank boss solo, he can monopolize all the items. Meanwhile, Lily waves from the guild entrance, calling out good luck and wishing fortune would favor him. Alto announces he's off. 1 hour later, Alto arrives at the Achille mine. The entrance looms before him, a massive cave opening set into a hillside covered in vegetation. Alto enters the dark tunnel, his body glowing faintly from his magic. He notes it's colder than he thought, and he's glad he brought his jacket. Deep in the Achille mine, Alto narrows down his search strategy. Since it's a mine, he figures they're talking about magic stones, and they can't transport anything too big or heavy. Their search target should be limited to rare things found underground. Alto recalls reading about a rare type of magic stone in a book once. As he ventures deeper into the cold tunnel, a massive troll suddenly appears before him, the creature's grotesque face filling the entire passage. Trolls are B-rank monsters with extremely low intelligence, but their endurance and power are off the charts. Ordinary adventurers don't stand a chance against them, and they're known to be dangerous as hell due to their high aggression. But Alto doesn't hesitate. He activates Fireball ×8 and launches a devastating barrage straight at the troll. The magical projectiles streak through the air and slam into the creature with explosive force, the troll taking the full brunt of the simultaneous assault as the impacts light up the dark mine tunnel. Alto confirms the kill easily and retrieves the troll stone from the defeated monster. Then a system notification pops up, indicating he's discovered a magic gemstone. Alto looks around the area trying to locate it, and after a moment of searching, he spots something shining in a hole in the mine wall, retrieving the glowing gemstone. Alto examines the rare mana-shining stone, wondering how much it would go for. He handles the sorting himself, but an executive handles the payouts, so he wouldn't really know the exact value. Then another system notification appears, this time for a dragon eye stone he's discovered. As Alto continues through the dungeon, notifications keep popping up constantly. Every step he takes, another notification. Alto can't help but think this B-rank dungeon is way more fun than he expected. Later, Alto returns to the Quest Introduction Guild, where the female receptionist welcomes him back, surprised to see him so soon. She points out his hunting permit was for 2 days and asks if something happened. Alto explains he was hoping to cash out today's haul first since he managed to collect more items than expected. Lily appears shocked when Alto offers to split things with her, asking if he means half of his entire haul. She tries to maintain composure, saying she's glad things are going well for him. But then Lily actually examines what Alto brought back and completely loses it. She frantically identifies a magic chimmer stone and a dragon stone among the collection, barely able to contain her shock. Every single one of these items is high value, and the bag is overflowing with rare gemstones. Lily stares at Alto in disbelief, asking if he got all of these by himself. Alto casually mentions he's always been good at scouting. Lily seriously thinks Alto should join a gathering guild at this point, but she needs to appraise them all in detail first. When the appraisal is complete, Lily shows Alto the result, 10 gold coins. Alto's jaw drops at the amount, completely shocked by how much he made from a single dungeon run. Lily examines what Alto brought back and can barely believe it. Gathering this much from a B-rank dungeon is absolutely remarkable. The map on the wall shows shadow monsters, which are so powerful that normally 10 people are needed just to handle them. Meanwhile, Alto stares at the 10 gold coins, still processing the amount. Lily asks him just how strong he actually is, and Alto admits he surprised himself at the results. Later on, Alto and Lily discuss his future plans outside. Alto mentions there's still the issue of the Knight Academy's entrance fee. Lily explains that tons of cases exist where people have the talent, but end up giving up because they just can't afford the tuition. Alto notes that as long as he can eat, anything's fine windows are just a waste anyway. He's never been the type to desire more than necessary or earn much, but things are different now. Then the warehouse supervisor makes it pretty clear he doesn't have that kind of money to help Alto with tuition. Alto sits there thinking about how he was planning to save up over time through collection quests. The Knight Academy students are shown mostly from noble families. Special students like Alto are the exception, with 80% of those in the Knight Academy coming from noble families. With his recent dungeon haul, Alto realizes he might be able to save up the tuition in no time at all. The next day at Ashel Mine, Alto returns in top form ready for another run. His backpack gets stuffed full again, so he figures he'll head back for now. Walking through the mine, Alto notes his exp gain efficiency has shot up several times over from before, and he wonders what quests he should take from tomorrow onwards. Suddenly, a terrible sound echoes through the mine. Someone yells to go check it out, and Alto reacts in shock, asking what that was. Someone responds that it was no ordinary scream. Then Alto takes off running toward the source of the noise. Alto runs through the mine, calling out that he's sure the sound came from around here. Then he sees it, a massive dragon blocking the passage ahead. Alto spots someone trapped under the dragon and realizes they're in immediate danger. He activates physical buff times 16 without hesitation, charges forward, and slams into the dragon with enhanced strength. The creature screams as the blow connects. Alto keeps fighting the dragon with everything he's got when suddenly someone in the mine yells out, asking why the hell there's a dragon in a place like this. The massive creature dominates the passage, its scaled body filling the tunnel as Alto continues his assault. A blonde woman with a ribbon in her hair kneels beside the injured person, tears streaming down her face as she asks if he's alive. Alto appears and asks if they're okay. The woman just stammers, clearly shaken by everything going down. Alto checks on the unconscious man and identifies him as Mike, then tells the woman that if she can run away with Mike, she needs to do it now. Someone calls out Mike's name in alarm. Meanwhile, Alto says he'll try to do something about the dragon. Alto decides to draw the dragon's attention away from the two civilians. Someone yells to get the dragon away from them. Then Alto charges toward the creature, taunting it loudly and calling it a big oaf, declaring himself as the dragon's opponent now. But the dragon begins preparing something devastating. Alto recognizes it as dragon breath and his face shows alarm. He realizes they're still too far from safety. The dragon unleashes the attack with a massive explosion of energy filling the entire mine passage. The dragon breath slams into the mine with incredible force. Alto notes that dragon breath packs a serious punch, but the real danger is the heat wave that spreads on contact. The destructive energy radiates outward from the point of impact, throwing people and debris everywhere. Someone realizes that at this rate, the people from before are gonna die. Alto activates physical buff times 16 again, stacking his enhancement as he launches himself through the air with enhanced speed. Then the attack, or the dragon's counterattack, sends Alto crashing down hard. Alto keeps drawing the dragon's attention, yelling at it to come after him instead. The dragon's breath explodes through the mine tunnel with devastating force, but Alto realizes something. Being in the air might actually help disperse the heat wave. He figures the heat wave only hits him when he's airborne, but if everyone gets blasted by that heat on the ground, the casualties would be way worse. Taking it up in the air is definitely better than letting it spread along the ground where everyone else is. Then Alto unleashes his counterattack. He activates Ice Needle times 16 in continuous activation mode, and suddenly a massive barrage of ice projectiles launches toward the dragon, filling the entire air with frozen spears. The ice needles collide with the dragon breath in a massive explosion. Someone down below realizes an explosion just went off, and the blonde woman cries out in alarm at the impact. The collision creates this powerful shockwave, with ice formations spreading outward in a circular pattern. Alto shouts in triumph that he actually managed to cancel out the dragon's breath attack. He tells the dragon to take his next move and activates Ice Wall times 16 in succession. Massive walls of ice start forming between him and the dragon, creating a protective barrier while the creature's still obscured by all the smoke and debris. Someone notices a wall of ice has just appeared. Meanwhile, the blonde woman, still protecting the unconscious Mike, realizes something. She wonders if this magic is also his doing, but then it clicks for her that the dragon breath no longer has any heat wave effect. The ice wall stands tall in the mine, shielding them from the dragon's position. Alto reflects on the strange situation. For a dragon to be hanging around these borderlands is seriously unusual. The dragon's lying on the ground now, clearly messed up from Alto's attacks, with ice formations and debris scattered all around the creature. Someone nearby observes that it looks like they somehow managed to win the fight. Meanwhile, Alto stands in the destroyed mine, processing what just went down. He notes that a dragon showing up only an hour away from town is completely unheard of. He reflects that an S-rank monster is rare even as a dungeon boss, and he only managed to take it down because he happened to be able to use ice and water magic. Then it hits him the people from earlier, and he quickly turns to check on them. Alto rushes over to find the male guard and blonde woman tending to Mike, who's still knocked out on the ground. The guard asks if Alto's okay while the blonde woman calls out to him. Alto quickly pulls out a potion, telling them he's got one ready since ailments are his biggest fear as a solo adventurer. He hands it over. Mike apologizes, explaining the paralysis is still messing with him. The group expresses relief at being saved. The blonde woman smiles warmly at Alto, thanking him like crazy. She admits that for a moment there she didn't know what was gonna happen. Alto reacts somewhat bashfully to her gratitude. The male guard drops his head in shame, apologizing like crazy for completely failing in his duty as their guard. The blonde woman tells him to lift his head, she's not having it. The guard keeps protesting, but then the woman explains there was no way to predict they'd run into a dragon in a place like this, let alone get betrayed by one of their own. She looks toward Alto in the distance and notes that fortunately, this guy was kind enough to save them. The blonde woman turns to Alto, declaring him her savior and thanking him deeply for saving their lives. Alto reacts all nervous and awkward. He introduces himself as Alto, keeping it simple. The woman responds that her name is Charlotte and she hopes they become well acquainted. Alto finds himself completely distracted by how elegant her every move is, thinking to himself that she's like a living doll. Charlotte asks if she can thank him properly at a later date, requesting which guild he belongs to. But before Alto can fully respond, Charlotte apologizes and explains they've got to hurry back to town immediately. Charlotte asks Alto to tell her the name of the guild he usually uses. Alto protests that she doesn't need to thank him since he's just some lowly freelance adventurer, but he reveals it's a quest referral guild called White Lancers. The male guard confirms he knows that place and suggests they get out of the area immediately. The group prepares to take off. The guard apologizes for all the trouble and excuses himself. Meanwhile, Charlotte promises Alto she'll definitely pay him back for this, thanking him again with that warm smile. Alto just watches them leave, wondering what the hell that was all about. A few days later at the White Lancers Guild, the warehouse supervisor shoves Alto aggressively, yelling at him to move it, and Alto nearly stumbles from the force. The supervisor goes off on a rant about whose fault it is that he's stuck organizing the warehouse, claiming all the work Alto used to do hit them at once when he left due to the labor shortage. The supervisor keeps yelling that just looking at Alto pisses him off. Meanwhile, back at the White Lancers Guild, Irasolito walks up and asks what the hardest quest they have right now is. The guild staff suggests maybe clearing a B-rank dungeon, but Irasolito immediately shuts it down, saying that's not good enough and they need a major achievement right now. He demands to know if there are any A-rank quests available. Thing is, Irasolito's party has been struggling lately. They've failed quests several days in a row and the guild master's trust in them has completely plummeted. The guild staff tells him they don't have any A-rank quests at the moment, which just frustrates Irasolito even more. He calls them useless and threatens to look for work elsewhere. Then suddenly, a royal official with glasses and formal attire enters the guild with a group. Someone comments about him having a lot of nerve considering the recent failures, while the guild receptionist welcomes them in. The official announces he's come to request a mission from a certain man. Then Alto notices the emblem on the guy's chest and realizes he's actually a royal official. The official explains this is a request by nomination. He's here to assign a high-difficulty quest to determine if the nominee is fit for the exam. Alto reacts with total shock while Irasolito also looks completely surprised. The official keeps going, explaining that normally only students attending the Royal Knight Academy are permitted to take the Knight Selection exam. But as an exceptional measure, outsiders can take it if they've got a recommendation from the royal court. The court assigns these high-difficulty quests to people with potential, basically using them to evaluate whether they're worthy or not. Alto thinks to himself that he'd heard rumors about this whole thing before, but never thought it actually existed. He can't help but feel jealous at the opportunity. Then the official introduces himself as Leto. Suddenly, Irasolito gets all excited, thinking his exploits must have finally reached the royal court. This has to be his once-in-a-lifetime chance to restore his honor. Lily and Irasolito both look surprised and tense, waiting to hear who the nomination is for. Then Leto addresses Alto directly, confirming he must be Alto and noting what a coincidence it is. He says Alto looks just as he was told and there's no doubt about it. Alto responds with confusion. But Irascileto completely loses it, demanding Leto wait a minute. He can't believe this guy is Alto and asks what about him. He yells that Alto is a no-skill, incompetent loser, then demands if Leto knows the name Eraso. Irascileto insists he's said to be the man closest to becoming a royal knight right now. Leto responds flatly that he's never heard of Eraso, and Irascileto is completely devastated by this response. Meanwhile, Leto explains that in any case, the princess wishes for Alto to become a knight, and he asks if Alto will accept. Alto asks for clarification about whether he means the actual princess. Leto confirms this and asks again if he'll accept. Alto asks if completing that quest means he can participate in the knight selection exam. Leto confirms it's highly difficult, but if Alto succeeds, he'll be given the right to challenge the exam to select royal guards alongside the third-year students of the Knight Academy. Then Irascileto reacts with complete shock as Lily suddenly raises her hand and pleads for the quest instead. She begs Leto to let her take it. The situation becomes chaotic as multiple people start objecting, with someone insisting there must be some kind of mistake, arguing that Alto is a certified no-skill who cannot possibly be fit to become a knight. Irascileto tries one more desperate angle, swearing on his resolve and his past leading an S-rank party that he should be the one chosen. But Leto coldly asks if Irascileto is prepared for the consequences of objecting to the princess's words. Leto explains the situation calmly, the court recommending someone completely unknown is unprecedented, and the princess foresaw there would naturally be opposing opinion. To address this, apart from the quest itself, they'll have Lord Alto prove his strength through an exam or a duel before an audience. Someone notes that conversely, if power is recognized in that duel, then a recommendation for the selection exam may be possible. Alto thinks to himself that this approach would make it harder for people to object, and most would be convinced by the results. Leto asks if this arrangement works for Lord Alto, and Alto agrees, saying it sounds pretty solid to him. Irascileto jumps at the opportunity, declaring he's truly grateful for this whole setup and that he, Eraso, is gonna give this duel everything he's got. Then Leto announces that tomorrow they'll be holding a duel between the two of them at the Royal Palace Arena. Alto's mind races as he tries to process everything. Things happen so fast he could barely keep up, but he recognizes this is his shot. No matter what the conditions are, he's determined to clear them. Irascileto enthusiastically agrees to the arrangement, but then Leto adds that the princess will also be showing up, so they should absolutely make sure not to be late. Meanwhile, at the Knight Order headquarters, security preparations begin for the public duel that got decided on such short notice. A female knight briefs the assembled officers. The knight selection exam draws serious public attention, and rumors of some unknown adventurer have already spread throughout the entire capital. The officials discuss the security concerns. The more people attending, the higher the chance of dangerous individuals slipping into the crowd. The female knight with braided hair emphasizes they need to prepare for every possible scenario and make sure everything's absolutely perfect. The briefing continues as someone instructs the squad leaders to finalize arrangements for positioning and direct any questions by the end of the day. This is a vital mission where they've got to guarantee the safety of both the citizens and the princess at the same time. Then a male knight addresses the assembled forces, acknowledging this is an emergency situation but expecting everyone to give their all. He dismisses them to their duties, and the knights respond with disciplined acknowledgement. Meanwhile, a document about Alto is being reviewed, and the princess walks down a palace hallway, her footsteps echoing through the corridor. The princess examines the document about Alto, clearly impressed by his accomplishments. She thinks to herself that Alto really is amazing. But this realization also brings a sense of inadequacy. She'd thought she had already reached the starting line, but at her current level, she doesn't have the power to take down an A-rank monster alone. She looks at the document with growing determination, resolving that she's gotta get much stronger too so that she can stand by his side. The Royal Palace Arena is absolutely packed, spectators filling every single section of the stands, and the crowds roaring with anticipation and excitement. Then the announcer addresses the audience, thanking everyone for waiting and declaring that it's finally time for the main event. He announces they'll now introduce the knight selection exam nominees and their opponents. The announcement continues as the announcer begins with information on the recommended participant, Alto. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, Alto's sitting on a bench while Leto stands nearby. Leto tells Alto he's looking forward to seeing his true strength today, but Alto responds with visible nervousness written all over his face. Alto's mind is racing as the pressure builds. He realizes his entire life is about to change drastically depending on the outcome of this duel. He reminds himself this is different from normal battle since he can just show the results of his training. The tension mounts as Alto starts getting nervous, but then his determination solidifies. He knows he absolutely cannot lose. On the stairs leading to the arena, Irasolito encounters Alto. Irasolito mocks him, saying he thought Alto would run away in fear, but surprisingly the guy actually showed up. He condescendingly praises Alto for at least having that much courage. The guildmaster and other party members are present nearby. Someone mentions that if Alto wins against Irasolito, he'll earn the right to take the quest required for the knight selection exam. Irasolito declares confidently to the guildmaster that he'll become a knight and bring honor to their guild's reputation, and the guildmaster says he's counting on Irasolito. Then one of Irasolito's party members notices Alto and recognizes him as the no-skill they laid off from the guild. Another party member questions if it's too easy when all they have to do is beat this guy. Irasolito's party member declares it'll be an instant kill, and Irasolito agrees completely with a confident grin. The guildmaster and Irasolito laugh together at the prospect of such an easy victory over Alto. Leto addresses both Alto and Irasolito, stating he'll now explain the rules. He lays out the duel conditions clearly. The winner is whoever breaks the opponent's barrier or inflicts even the slightest damage, and no further attacks will be permitted once that happens. Knights are standing by within the venue, so any minor injuries can be treated with healing magic. Alto listens intently while processing the rules, understanding exactly what he needs to do. Then Irasolito tells Alto he doesn't mind if Alto shows his full strength, that's all he has to say. Alto responds that therefore, as long as it's within the rules, there's no need for restraint. The group prepares to head to the arena, and Leto announces it's time to go. Alto walks forward with determination alongside Irasolito and the officials, heading toward the arena entrance. Meanwhile, the announcer addresses the packed crowd, thanking everyone for waiting and declaring that the duelists are making their entrance. Irasolito and Alto walk out into the arena as the crowd roars. The announcer formally declares they'll now commence the public duel regarding the court recommendation for the knight selection exam and the formal objection against it. The two opponents face each other in the center of the massive arena. The referee, a knight named Butts, stands between them in the center of the arena. He introduces himself as the knight serving as referee and asks if they understand the rules. Both Alto and Irasolito confirm they understand. Irasolito confidently declares he'll take Alto down in one hit and announces he's starting. Butts gives the signal and announces the duel has begun. Irasolito immediately charges forward, going straight for a high-level skill. He casts Dragon Breath, unleashing a massive magical attack. Alto recognizes the technique, but notes he just got finished experiencing a real dragon breath back in the mine. As Irasolito's spell rushes toward him, Alto activates Fireball as his counter. Irasolito mocks him for using such a low-level skill, laughing that there's no way Alto can beat him with something like that. The spells collide right in the middle of the arena, and spectators immediately react with shock at the size of Alto's fireball. Like, how the hell could a basic spell even get that massive? The two magical attacks clash with tremendous force, and Alto pushes his fireball forward straight through Irasolito's dragon breath, the collision creating these massive energy waves that ripple across the entire arena floor. Then the collision results in this devastating explosion that absolutely rocks the entire arena. Multiple shockwaves ripple outward from the impact point as the blast engulfs the center with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, as the explosion continues, someone in the crowd reacts in complete shock at what's unfolding before them. Irasolito screams that it's impossible, but Alto's fireball completely overwhelms his dragon breath, creating a massive explosion that rocks the entire arena. The blast engulfs Irasolito while Alto just stands there unharmed on the opposite side. Someone in the crowd screams in shock at what just went down. The dust finally settles, and Irasolito is down on the ground, completely defeated. The crowd erupts in absolute shock and disbelief. Nobody can believe what they're seeing. The referee raises his hand and announces the winner is Alto, and spectators can barely process what they just witnessed as Alto stands victorious in the center of the arena. Irasolito sits there in stunned defeat, asking himself how he could have possibly lost to that incompetent no-skill bastard. Then an official approaches Alto and tells him his power is just as the rumors say, that he's truly worthy of being a knight. Alto thanks him for that. Meanwhile below, Charlotte suddenly recognizes Alto's voice as the person who saved her in the mine the other day, and she quietly says his name. Princess Charlotte approaches Alto with gratitude, thanking him so much for the other day. Alto reacts with complete shock, stuttering about her being a princess. Charlotte apologizes for the late introduction and reveals she's Princess Charlotte of the Kingdom of Lawrence. She tells him if it weren't for him, she would be dead by now, and she has his sincerest gratitude. Meanwhile, the guildmaster yells asking what the meaning of this is, and someone nearby admits they have no clue either. Charlotte tells Alto she has once again witnessed his abilities, that he truly possesses the strength befitting a knight. Then a male royal member explains their royal family would very much like to recommend Alto for the audition exam at the Royal Knight Academy. Charlotte continues, but there's a catch. To prove his skills are worthy of a recommendation, even for the royal family they cannot simply issue recommendations to just anyone. Alto will need to complete a quest first. Charlotte asks if he'll accept, mentioning he'll also be paid a reward for completing the quest. Alto immediately responds that he'd be honored. Charlotte tells Alto she'll contact him again officially at a later date, adding that she truly wants him to become a knight. They shake hands. Charlotte says she has high expectations for him, and Alto thanks her very much, his expression showing genuine appreciation and determination. But the guildmaster is furious, yelling at Irascileto that it's all because he lost to that incompetent loser. He continues that he was humiliated as well, the anger escalating as he berates Irascileto for failing to clear a B-rank dungeon, which has caused their guild's prestige to hit rock bottom and earned them the royal family's resentment. Irascileto can only apologize profusely. The guildmaster coldly states that normally he would fire Irascileto right this instant, and Irascileto panics, begging for anything but being fired. The guildmaster declares he's giving Irascileto one last chance, explaining that the very survival of their guild is at stake and he cannot allow it to fail. However, at this rate, Irascileto will forget his career as an adventurer entirely. Irascileto desperately asks what kind of chance he's being given. Then the guildmaster's plan becomes clear as he orders Irascileto to rig things so that incompetent fool Alto commits a blunder. He reasons that while the princess may have said those things about Alto's abilities, there's no way a no-skill could pull off a stunt like defeating Irascileto in a duel. The guildmaster explains that it's only logical to assume there's foul play involved. If they can just prove Alto is truly incompetent, it'll prove their claims were right all along. Irascileto gets excited, declaring it's as expected of the guildmaster. But then the guildmaster warns sternly that failure will absolutely not be tolerated again. Irascileto enthusiastically responds that he'll make sure to strip away that imposter's disguise. The next day, Irascileto and his party arrive at a cave entrance. One of the members nervously asks if this is the place where an infamous S-rank boss is sealed. Irascileto tries to reassure them that there's no need to actually fight any monsters. He explains that as an S-rank party, they might eventually be the ones to take down the boss sealed here. But for today, they're just on a scouting mission. The party stands together, staring at the ominous cave entrance. Then Irascileto's true intentions are revealed. He paid a fortune to a court official to find out which quest Alto is being sent on. He schemes that no matter what kind of cheating Alto is doing, he won't be able to defeat an S-rank boss. If all goes well, Irascileto might even be able to dispose of Alto as a nuisance permanently. Irascileto grins wickedly, determined to make sure Alto fails no matter what. The party enters the cave system with Irascileto calling out for everyone to move. Hours later, they arrive at the sealed chamber deep within the dungeon. Standing before the seal, Irascileto senses something disturbing. His whole body tingles from the sinister aura emanating from the sealed boss. One party member complains about having no idea how many high-grade potions they've consumed just to get this far, listing off S-grade potions and high-grade health potions. The complaints continue about getting cold feet. Irascileto commands his team to break the seal and grab the talisman. A female party member protests that this is an S-rank boss seal, and besides, this was just supposed to be a scouting mission. But Irascileto snaps at them to stop whining, insisting that if they grab the talisman and run immediately there'll be no problem. He threatens that if they don't do it now, they're all fired. The female party member yells at them to get the talisman now. Irascileto triumphantly yells that he did it. Suddenly, the seal shatters in a massive explosion of energy, the talisman breaking apart as the party watches from below. The seal ruptures completely with overwhelming force, and the party members scramble in panic as massive energy bursts forth. Irascileto screams in terror as they all flee from the breaking seal. Then a voice echoes through the chamber, identifying itself as the rank S boss. The female party member desperately yells at everyone to hurry up and escape while casting physical buffs. Meanwhile, Irascileto's face twists into a dark smile as he realizes this is the end for Alto. The party bolts through the dungeon corridors, one member calling out to wait for the captain. A few days later, Alto receives his quest briefing. Knights explain that these are the 2 knights who will accompany him on this quest and conduct his evaluation. The mission is a mine-type dungeon presented by the royal family, and it's a high-difficulty one at that. Along the way are almost all B-rank or higher monsters, and the boss is S-class. But there's history behind this dungeon too. Adventurers once attempted to conquer this dungeon's boss, but due to its immense vitality, the fight dragged on. Because there had been no actual damage dealt so far, they managed to seal the boss away after deciding they couldn't defeat it, and it's been left sealed like that for many years. The knights clarify that this mission isn't about defeating the boss though, it's about retrieving the treasure chest in the boss room. Two knights will be accompanying Alto on this mission, and since the boss is sealed, he won't even encounter it. Alto reviews the quest documentation carefully, checking his preparations and confirming his auto-magic settings are ready and his potions are stocked. Now Alto stands before the entrance to the dungeon with a notorious boss, facing his knight selection exam high difficulty quest. He's fired up and declares he'll clear this quest no matter what. Alto walks into the ominous dungeon entrance, ready to prove himself. Alto battles through the dungeon depths, cutting down monsters with precise strikes. The creatures fall before him as he pushes deeper into the darkness. Then suddenly, multiple glowing eyes appear up ahead, watching from the shadows. Alto holds up an ornate treasure item triumphantly, the quest objective secured. The female knight praises his detection skills, admitting she genuinely thought they were done for when that S-rank alert went off. Meanwhile, the male knight confesses he didn't expect them to clear the dungeon so smoothly. He still has room to improve, and he thanks Alto sincerely for carrying them through. The group decides to head back, successfully completing the high-difficulty quest. They return to town, emerging from the dungeon entrance. Alto sits down on some steps, relieved they succeeded without any issues, especially since it was a quest assigned by the royal family themselves. One of the knights admits he's completely exhausted, while the two knights stretch and celebrate together, acknowledging Alto's power and expressing how happy they are about clearing the quest as a team. Alto's mind drifts to his childhood friend Lily. She's heading to the starting line a step ahead of him, already first in her class at the Royal Knights Academy. She must have honed her skills by sparring with high-level companions there, and she even earned the right to challenge the Academy's selection exam. Meanwhile, Alto has been grinding experience points for 3 years straight since being branded with no skills and no magic aptitude, literally gaining experience even while sleeping. Alto reflects that it looks like he might finally catch up to Lily if only he can pass the selection exam. He sits there in meditation, thinking about how despite being despised for being skillless, he can still become a knight. Alto prepares himself, casting his auto magic and resolving to work even harder for the exams, but first he decides to grab some food. Then, as he walks through town, a massive crowd suddenly appears, creating this dramatic commotion all around him. Alto just stands there frozen as chaos erupts everywhere. Someone in the crowd yells for everyone to run. Meanwhile, this blonde, spiky-haired guy in the center shouts that the boss has come down from the mine. Alto can't believe what he's seeing. People start panicking, asking if they're serious and if they need to hurry. Then someone mentions this is the one that even a group of A-rank adventurers couldn't beat. The blonde guy points and warns that's the way to the boss. Alto realizes the situation has gone completely sideways. People scatter in all directions while Alto takes off running in the opposite direction. He thinks about how the mine-type dungeon he went to is straight down this path, not far from town. They need to deal with the boss as fast as they can, as far away from the city as possible. But then Alto comes face to face with the threat. A massive dragon zombie emerges before him, its undead form towering and menacing. The dragon zombie regenerates constantly despite the barrage of attacks hitting it. Someone yells about what they're supposed to do. Another adventurer realizes no matter how much they attack it, the creature just keeps repairing itself without leaving a dent. The situation deteriorates as someone notes it's moving forward slowly but steadily. The blonde adventurer realizes that even with so many high-ranking adventurers gathered here, it's not enough. At this rate, the dragon zombie is going to reach the city. Alto moves across the elevated structure, his mind racing about all the people still left in the city. He casts Fireball X16X. The massive spell impacts the dragon zombie with devastating force, obliterating its head. Alto sees the result and thinks he blew its head off. Surely this should finish it. But then someone calls out that the creature is regenerating way too fast. Meanwhile, the Knight Commander of Security arrives on scene. A male knight with a goatee looks at the situation and realizes it's a complete disaster without even needing to ask. He asks what the situation is and spots Alto, recognizing him as the big shot the guards mentioned earlier. A knight yells to Alto that their attacks aren't doing anything at all. Someone else explains that regeneration is the dragon zombie's specialty and the reason it's ranked S-class. According to scholars, there are 7 cores inside its torso. They must all be destroyed at the exact same time. Then the technical challenge becomes clear. With 4 circuits, someone can maintain a barrier and launch 3 attacks simultaneously. Magic circuit diagrams illustrate the limitation. The blonde knight realizes that's impossible. Alto admits to himself it certainly won't be easy. The blonde knight notes the more talented at magic circuits someone is, the better their standard. Someone wishes they had someone like Lily, who possesses 7 circuits. But chanting and skill speeds vary from person to person. Furthermore, they must hit 7 cores moving inside the body simultaneously, which requires multiple people coordinating their skills. Alto realizes hitting the cores at the exact same moment is impossible, but the blonde knight yells they have no choice and needs everyone's help. He tells everyone to report how many magic circuits they have. Alto says out of everyone here, he has the most. The blonde knight says then they'll destroy the cores simultaneously. He's already located them with his appraisal skill. 7 core locations are revealed across the dragon's body. Left wing, left shoulder, solar plexus, neck and head. The blonde knight says he has 5 magic circuits, so he'll attack 5 locations. He needs Alto to strike 2 spots though, the right shoulder and the base of the right wing. Alto confirms he understands. Then the blonde knight yells here he goes. Alto yells fire lance and both of them unleash their coordinated assault. The combined attacks slam into the dragon zombie from multiple angles. Fire lances pierce through the creature's body, striking at the core locations with explosive force. Alto wonders if it worked, thinking it looks simultaneous to him. Meanwhile, observers note their coordination is incredibly perfect for an impromptu pair, as expected of a knight and a high-rank adventurer. But then the blonde knight calls out it's no good, he wasn't quite able to destroy the core. Alto reacts in shock. The blonde knight explains the thickness of the meat and hide are different, so hitting them at the same time isn't enough. Alto yells that they have to break the matter out and expose the core. But someone points out that even if they expose it, the thing'll just regenerate instantly. Another voice adds they have to land 7 attacks at once to expose the core in the first place. Someone says they'll need to hit it with another 7 simultaneous attacks after that. The blonde knight reacts to the sheer difficulty of the plan. But suddenly, the blonde knight shouts they have to do it and calls for everyone to help him. Alto and the others confirm they're in. The blonde knight announces he can see all 7 cores. Then someone tells everyone to take it down in one go. Alto and the others unleash their coordinated assault, yelling fire lance as multiple attacks converge on the dragon zombie. Someone shouts they destroyed the core, but someone immediately counters with a negative. The blonde knight confirms it's no use. Alto realizes the more people they have, the harder the timing gets. Alto says he'll keep going as many times as it takes, and the blonde knight confirms he's with him. Exhausted fighters near the city entrance are barely holding on. Alto observes that everyone has used high-level skills dozens of times, and now they're running out of mana with their accuracy dropping fast. The blonde knight asks what they're going to do now, but then Alto calls out to him and asks to be allowed to do it. The blonde knight turns and asks Alto if he has many magic circuits. Alto admits he only has 1 magic circuit, just 1. The blonde knight reacts strongly, saying then they have nothing to talk about. But Alto insists he can fire 7 skills simultaneously and asks for just 1 chance to prove it. The blonde knight looks at Alto skeptically, thinking to himself that a no skill with only a single magic circuit couldn't possibly be of any use. Meanwhile, the blonde knight tells Alto they'll give it a try, thinking to himself that he's run out of options anyway. Alto thanks him enthusiastically, ready to prove himself. Someone tells Alto they'll tear through the dragon zombie's flesh and expose the cores, then orders him to destroy all 7 of those cores simultaneously. Alto confirms he understands. The blonde knight charges forward, yelling that he's going in and casting fire lance as the coordinated assault kicks off, multiple fighters launching attacks from different angles. The dragon zombie gets bombarded with strikes as Alto, and the blonde knight execute their synchronized offensive massive explosions, erupting across the battlefield, as their attacks converge on the massive undead creature. Then someone shouts that all 7 cores are out, and another voice desperately calls for their auto magic to work. Alto activates his skill, commanding Fireball X7. The blonde knight reacts in shock, realizing Alto really fired 7 shots simultaneously, someone else expressing amazement at what they're witnessing. Alto concentrates intensely, determined to make sure all his attacks hit at the exact same time. Alto's thoughts are racing as he focuses on the task ahead. He's gotta hit the dragon with 7 fireballs, and the target just keeps moving. This is his moment to show off the results of practicing orbital control for days without rest, and failure just isn't an option for him. Then someone commands him to go. Alto moves in close, engaging the dragon zombie directly. The creature roars and tries to counter, but Alto refuses to let it interfere, declaring he won't let it stop him as he presses his attack. Meanwhile, the blonde knight commander observes Alto in the heat of battle, thinking this guy was about to be crushed, yet hasn't even flinched. He notes Alto's incredible focus as Alto closes in and strikes the dragon zombie directly with devastating force. The 7 fireballs hit their mark simultaneously. All 7 cores explode at once, sending shockwaves through the dragon zombie's massive body. The creature erupts in multiple blasts as each core gets destroyed, and the observers below watch the coordinated assault succeed. A massive flash erupts across the battlefield as the dragon zombie finally falls. The observers react with shock and emotion as the dust settles. The creature's remains scatter across the ground, and Alto stands among the debris, quietly confirming that he actually did it. The onlookers are stunned. Someone exclaims that Alto actually took down a dragon zombie, while the blonde knight asks if he's serious. Another observer admits he can't believe Alto pulled it off. Then someone notes they've never seen anyone use 7 skills simultaneously before, and remarks that Alto's trajectory was incredibly precise too. The blonde knight approaches Alto, acknowledging they couldn't have done it on their own and thanking him for his help. He asks for Alto's name, though it's a bit late for introductions. Alto responds that his name is Alto. Meanwhile, someone nearby explains that he's the guy who won that duel the other day and finished it in an instant. The blonde knight mentions the name sounds familiar, and Alto confirms it in a measured way. The blonde knight admits he'd heard the rumors, but seeing such a skilled person in action proves Alto is truly worthy of being a knight. He adds that even a knight can't fire 7 spells at once. Alto thanks him, but thinks to himself that he can actually fire 16 at once, though he'll keep that information to himself. The crowd gathers around Alto and the knight, celebrating the victory. They declare a hero of the city has been born, shouting that they survived because of Alto and calling down blessings on him. Back at the palace, Princess Charlotte reports to a male royal official that Lord Alto's mission was a complete success. The official notes that Alto actually defeated the S-rank boss that had been sealed away, pretty insane when he thinks about it. Charlotte presents the report from the knight who accompanied Alto on the mission. The knight's assessment states that Alto's skill, courage, focus, and cooperation were all superb, and that he's someone the knight would genuinely love to serve with as a fellow knight. Princess Charlotte declares that the results are seriously impressive, and they've gotta make sure Alto becomes a knight no matter what happens. The male official agrees completely, no hesitation whatsoever. Then someone reports that the boss that got taken down had a permanent seal placed on it originally. But here's the thing, they add that there were traces showing it had been undone by someone, which is obviously suspicious. Meanwhile, Princess Charlotte and the male official are discussing the whole situation in the palace hallway. The official mentions that he heard from the accompanying knight that they did force their way into the sealed boss room. Someone notes that Alto actually broke through the barrier himself. The official assures Charlotte that the real culprit and the evidence will be revealed soon enough though. The male official reports that the culprit was a man named Iraso, who had a duel with Lord Alto, and he confirms that just like Princess Charlotte suspected, Iraso was arrested immediately. Princess Charlotte considers this, thinking about the grudge behind it all. Then the male official tells Princess Charlotte that he expected as much, so he already went ahead and summoned the military police and sentenced Iraso to 20 years of mine labor. Meanwhile, Irasolito sits at a table laughing to himself about how perfectly his plan went and how pleased the boss was. He's thinking that if that guy fails his quest, Irasolito himself will become a knight. But suddenly, military police burst into the room. Someone yells about the military police arriving and orders everyone not to move. Irasolito looks completely shocked as the officers surround him. The military police announce that Irasolito is under arrest for the crime of unsealing an S-rank boss and endangering the city. Irasolito protests desperately, demanding to know why he's being arrested and insisting this has to be some kind of mistake. The guy tries to stall, asking what proof they have and claiming he has nothing to do with anything. But the officers tell him not to bother resisting and show him that the evidence is all here. Irasolito continues screaming that this has to be a mistake as they drag him away. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the officials discuss how they also arrested the master of the guild Iraso belonged to. Turns out both men have additional charges like bribery and power harassment, so their punishment will be even heavier. Someone remarks that it's a relief they were able to eliminate him before he might have posed a threat to Master Alto. The male official agrees absolutely. Then a knight announces that Master Alto has arrived. Princess Charlotte tells them to let him in. Alto enters and Princess Charlotte greets him, mentioning it's been a while. She thanks him for protecting the city from that rampaging boss. Then Princess Charlotte tells Alto she heard he defeated an opponent even the knights couldn't beat in a single blow, noting his skills already surpassed those of a knight. But Alto humbly responds that it was only because he worked together with everyone that they won. The officials present Alto with his reward, and Princess Charlotte announces that due to his achievement in completing this quest and saving the city, he's been officially granted permission to take the knight selection exam. Alto expresses his deep gratitude, thanking them profusely. Princess Charlotte tells Alto she's sure he'll do just fine, and once he becomes a knight, she's hoping he'll lend his power to her unit. She wishes him to pass with flying colors. Alto responds enthusiastically that he's truly honored and will do his best to live up to her expectations. Princess Charlotte wishes him good luck out there. A few days later, Alto arrives at the Royal Knight Academy. The massive building stands before him with its towers and turrets, students walking around the grounds as he looks up at it, taking in the sight. Then the academy system gets explained. During the night selection exam that lasts 1 month, Alto will be treated the same as a student of the Night Academy. There are two types of students: regular academy students and recommended commoners. Through classes held between exams, students learn the necessary skills as a knight beyond just practical techniques. Alto walks through the academy grounds as noble students glance at him, and he can't help but think about what it's gonna be like living in the school dorms during the exam period. Meanwhile, elites from all over the country are here sharpening their skills, and the reality hits him. He won't become a knight unless he surpasses every single one of them. But Alto decides he'll just do what he can as usual, quietly and efficiently, then looks around trying to figure out where the orientation even is. Suddenly, a staff member tells Alto and the other waiting students that the briefing officer will be here shortly, so they should wait a little longer. Alto stands in the hallway with this serious expression on his face. The weight of it all starts sinking in. Just because someone entered the Royal Knight Academy doesn't mean everyone will become a knight. Everyone here is a rival. Then there's the fact that the knight selection exam is held only once, right in the middle of the third year. Alto's heard that graduates won't struggle to find work with the title of academy graduate, but here's the thing: if they fail, they'll carry the burden of not becoming a knight for the rest of their lives. Alto walks alone, thinking about how becoming a knight seemed absolutely impossible before. His mind drifts to Lily, the girl who transferred in the middle of another semester. If she'd progressed normally, she would have graduated and become a knight by now. Then someone calls out to Alto. He turns around, and it hits him that somehow he's managed to take the same exam as Lily, just 1 year behind her. The thought crosses his mind that if someone doesn't give up on their goals, chances really do come around. Meanwhile, background students are gossiping about the nepotism brat everyone's been talking about. A blonde noble approaches Alto with this smug expression plastered on his face, introducing himself as Bon Bone, heir to the House of Bone and current student at the Royal Knight Academy. Alto just introduces himself simply, keeping it short. But then Bon Bone tells Alto he's wondering what kind of dirty tricks someone like him used to get his recommendation. Alto thinks to himself that dealing with guys like this is just exhausting. He decides it's best to just brush him off, noting that the survival skills he honed back in the Black Guild are actually helping him handle this situation. Bon Bone then tells Alto to let him see his magic aptitude with his appraisal skill. Alto realizes it's possible to see someone else's aptitude with higher-tier appraisal magic, but he's pretty sure that's a serious breach of etiquette. Bon uses his appraisal skill on Alto, and his eyes widen in shock as he sees only one magic circuit. Bon mutters something about the pathetic result, and students around them start gossiping loudly. Someone yells that with only one barrier Alto's done for, asks how he's even supposed to attack. Meanwhile, others laugh that even a commoner has more circuits than that. Then Bon Bone yells at Alto about how a knight is someone superior like him, tells everyone to watch this. He casts his fireball magic with a dramatic display, and the students around them immediately start praising him, saying as expected of Lord Bon to master 5 magic circuits simultaneously with such magnificent precision. Bon declares this is the power of a man destined for knighthood. He mocks Alto, saying someone like him who struggles just to maintain a single barrier could never hope to serve as a knight. Bon grins smugly, saying it looks like Alto is stunned by the magnificence of his magic. But Alto just smiles calmly and asks if Bon is really bragging about landing a mere 5 fireball. Alto reflects internally that he thought the princess's words were just flattery, but maybe he can actually hold his own even with his current strength. The nobles react with confusion and anger at Alto's confidence, demanding to know what he's looking so happy about. They tell him if he's claiming he's not some connection higher, then he needs to prove it. Someone asks how many times Alto needs to hit the target and challenges him to try if he thinks he can. Alto simply says fireball times 16, and just like that, he casts the spell as 16 fireballs shoot out simultaneously toward the training targets. The massive barrage of fireballs hits the targets with devastating precision, and the watching nobles just stand there frozen in complete shock. Meanwhile, Bon and the others are losing their minds, screaming that it's impossible. 5, no wait, 16 at once, there's no way that's even possible. Then someone demands to know what kind of trick Alto used. But Bon just yells at him not to give him that crap, saying there's no way he could pull that off without cheating. Alto calmly responds that he didn't cheat at all. Alto says if he had to explain it, he guesses his unique skill is basically his cheat. Someone shouts that he only has one magic circuit and just trails off in disbelief. Another person complains about how noisy things have gotten, asking what the hell is going on. Suddenly, a stern-looking man steps forward and introduces himself as Arthur. Apparently, he's been appointed as the examiner for this term's selection process. The students recognize him immediately, asking if he's really Captain Arthur, the prodigy who became the youngest captain in history. Arthur explains he'll get straight to the point about the exam. It consists of 3 rounds including individual, dungeon, and team battles. He states he'll award an emblem to those he deems have reached the required standard. Alto observes that Arthur seems like a total celebrity around here. Arthur continues breaking down the exam structure. There are 3 emblems in total: the emblem of effort, the emblem of adaptability, and the emblem of teamwork. Acquiring all 3 emblems will earn someone the right to become a knight and pass the exam. He clarifies that basically, candidates should aim to collect 1 emblem during each of the 3 exams. A diagram shows the structure with dungeon battle, team battle, and individual battle all leading toward Alto as the participant. However, if abilities are recognized, multiple emblems may be awarded in a single exam, at least. That's how the system works on paper. Arthur keeps going and gives one piece of advice. Every year, there are those who think they can slack off until the final exam and grab all 3 emblems at once. But emblems can't be earned by people with such naive mindsets. He adds that if someone can't give it their all in the first test, there's almost no chance they'll step up for the next one. He mentions this is coming from someone who's supposedly an elite even among the knights. Alto thinks to himself that they have to earn their recognition, and this is gonna be a tough exam. Meanwhile, the group of noble students stands together, listening. Arthur wraps up the briefing. The exam's happening in 1 week, and it's gonna be individual, one-on-one matches where everyone fights each other. The matchups won't be announced until the day of the exam, so that's all for today, and he dismisses them. 1 week later, the Royal Palace Arena is absolutely packed with spectators. Alto reflects on the past week. Since he had unlimited access to the training grounds in his free time, he could do way more applied training than when he was stuck cooped up in the forest. He's been training with the constant auto-magic thing going until today. Plus, the classes let him ask pros questions, making it way more efficient than just self-study. So he's welcomed this day in perfect condition, and his fire magic has actually leveled up. His fire magic level went up for the first time in a while too. Then suddenly someone calls out to Alto. Lily comes running toward him all energetically, and Alto recognizes her immediately. Lily greets him super excitedly, saying it's been a while. They meet up in the arena waiting room where other students are also gathered. Alto congratulates Lily, saying she actually became a knight, and Lily thanks him, saying he's finally made it this far too. Lily wishes Alto good luck in the future as his junior. Alto notes that her skill is amazing after all. He explains that a lot happened, but he managed to get a recommendation from the princess. Alto tells her he'll do his best as her senior. Then another noble student approaches them, calling out to Alto and saying he didn't know Alto knew a knight. Alto responds simply with a greeting. Meanwhile, a noble student spots Alto in the arena hallway and tells him that it seems they're matched up for today's game. Suddenly, another noble student yells at Alto, saying he'll prove once and for all that Alto isn't some cheater, and he expects him to give it his all today. Bon Bone, heir to the House of Bone, stands with other nobles. One of them comments that there's not even a 1 in a million chance they'd lose. Bon Bone agrees confidently as the heir to his house. But Alto stands apart from them, wondering where on earth that confidence comes from. Someone observes the scene quietly. An older, large man in formal attire appears, and Bon Bone rushes toward him excitedly, asking if Duke Wilo could have come to see him. The man confirms he's Bon Bone. A caption identifies him as Duke Wilo, a minister of the royal court. Bon Bone thanks him profusely, but Duke Wilo tells him not to disappoint, saying he has high expectations for Bon Bone as his son. He adds that Bon Bone should think nothing of it since he's Bon Bone's father's superior, and the father is a truly exceptional man. Meanwhile, Alto stands there watching, processing this whole interaction. The group watches as Duke Wilo walks away down the hallway. Then Bon Bone turns aggressively toward Alto, demanding if he saw that. He boasts that his family, the House of Bone, has the court's trust. Another student chimes in that trust is everything to a knight. Suddenly, a bald man dramatically bows or kneels in the center of the arena floor. Bon Bone declares he carries the Duke's expectations, making him far more of a knight than Alto will ever be. But then someone tells them to pardon the intrusion. An older man in elaborate royal robes appears in the hallway, and the noble students react with shock. A caption identifies him as King Lawrence, father of Queen Charlotte. The king comments that it seems many students are taking the exam again this year. Then someone apologizes for the intrusion before their exam and tells everyone not to mind him and to carry on as they were. Alto is stunned, wondering what business the king would have in a place like this, while Bon Bone is even more shocked, barely able to process that it's the king himself. Suddenly, Bon Bone rushes forward, yelling that it's an honor to meet His Majesty for the first time. He explains that the House of Bone has served the royal family for generations, and even his father is highly regarded by the minister. But the king addresses Alto directly instead, saying he's heard much about him from his daughter. He adds that he's been looking forward to seeing Alto in action. Alto reacts with surprise, a small panel flashing through his memory of Charlotte standing there with the king. Then Charlotte waves at Alto, wishing him luck. The king apologizes for interrupting right before the exam, but Alto responds enthusiastically that he'll do his very best. The royal party begins to leave as students watch from the hallway and arena floor. Meanwhile, Bon Bon stands frozen, his face completely contorted in shock and anger. In the background, students murmur in confusion, wondering why the king and princess are talking to some Magic Circuit 1 cheater. Suddenly, someone asks if everyone's gathered. An official announces they're now moving to the arena and tells everyone to follow him. The group begins moving through the hallway. As they walk, the noble students murmur among themselves, and one of them complains that just because Alto is taking the night selection exam through a royal recommendation, they're all being treated differently. As a noble, he declares he must make sure Alto gets taught a proper lesson. Meanwhile, another noble student comments that for the king to be showing Alto such consideration, he must have used some underhanded trick. Then in the arena, Arthur stands at the official podium addressing the gathered crowd. He announces they'll now begin the individual matches of the selection exam. The first to land a blow on their opponent wins. The announcer states the first match is Alto versus Bon, and a noble student tells them to step forward. Alto and Bon Bon approach the arena floor, taking their positions for the duel. Bon Bon and Alto face each other in the arena with Arthur positioned between them as referee. Meanwhile, in the spectator area, one student boasts that Alto might have fooled everyone with his tricks last time, but that won't work in a real fight. A large noble student confidently declares he'll finish Alto in 2 seconds. Suddenly, the announcer's voice rings out across the arena, commanding them to begin the match. The match starts immediately, and Bon Bon launches his attack first yelling for his Blizzard launcher spell to kill Alto. He mocks Alto as a fool, declaring there's no way a mid-tier skill can beat his high-tier skill. But Alto responds by activating Fire Lance X16, and the two magical attacks clash right in the center of the arena. Then Alto's fire lances completely overwhelm Bon Bon's ice attack. The massive barrage of flaming spears pierces through the blizzard and continues forward with devastating force. Alto walks calmly through the magical destruction as his attack dominates the battlefield, and the noble students watching from the stands are left completely speechless at the display of power. Meanwhile, Bon Bon reacts in complete shock, barely able to process what he's seeing. He stammers that it's Fire Lance Rain, a top-tier skill, and the attack slams into him. He cries out as the flames hit. Suddenly, Bon Bon is knocked to the ground, defeated. He lies on the arena floor, having mistaken Alto's multiplied mid-tier spell for an actual top-tier skill, and the match is over in seconds. Alto's Fire Lance barrage tears through the arena with devastating force. The magical blades slice through rocks and debris, creating a storm of destruction. Bon Bon gets completely overwhelmed by the onslaught, knocked to the ground and defeated in seconds. Meanwhile, the noble students watching from the stands are in complete shock. One student stammers in disbelief that Lord Bone, one of the top students in their grade, was taken out instantly. Another noble can't even process what just happened. Bon Bon lies on the ground in utter disbelief, declaring he lost to a cheating bastard like Alto. A noble student immediately accuses Alto of cheating again, calling him a coward. But then the dark-haired noble student cuts through the protests with a cold statement. He says even if it was cheating, on the battlefield the living are the winners. The announcement echoes through the arena declaring Alto as the winner. Duke Wilo can barely believe what he just witnessed, and another noble student is left speechless. The heir to the Bone family was eliminated in an instant, and an official steps forward to present Alto with the emblem of effort for passing the first round. Moving on, Arthur announces the next match. Gregory Burns and Mia Knightley are called forward. The two students take their positions in the arena, ready for their duel. Meanwhile, a student watching from the stands observes it looks like a fight between a small animal and a wild beast. Arthur commands them to begin the match. Gregory Burns immediately attacks, yelling sand shot, but Mia quickly responds by casting Ice Wall to defend herself. The magical barrier forms as she channels her spell with a magic circle appearing right before her. Gregory follows up with Stone Hammer, launching a heavy magical attack at her. Mia dodges and counters back at him. Then Gregory uses Sand Shot again, unleashing a barrage of sand projectiles straight at her. Mia cries out as the attack hits her hard, struggling against Gregory's relentless offensive. The announcement declares Gregory Burns as the winner. Turns out his opponent was superior in both magic speed and precision. Students watching from the stands comment that he really is a slowpoke, and one noble laughs, saying he wishes he'd been the one to fight him instead. Gregory Burns stands there victorious, while Mia remains defeated on the ground between him and another student. Alto watches from the side as Mia looks down in dejection. Meanwhile, Arthur dismisses everyone for the day, telling them good work and that the second exam is in 2 weeks. Details will follow later. Students start discussing among themselves how less than a third of the total group actually managed to get an emblem. Alto reflects on the situation as the crowd disperses. The second exam is a dungeon crawl. He should have more experience than the Knight Academy students, but dungeons are prone to the unexpected. He realizes if it's like this every time, hardly anyone will become a knight. Then Alto heads toward the training grounds, determined to be fully prepared. Alto arrives at the training area right after the exam. The place is empty as expected. Suddenly, he notices something and recognizes Mia in the distance with two guys accompanying her. Meanwhile, the two male students confront Mia at the training grounds. One mocks her for still practicing after failing, and the other ridicules her for training even though she ranked last, calling it a waste. One male student tells Mia she ought to know her place and asks if she feels any shame. The other suggests maybe she's too stupid to even realize where she stands. Alto interrupts and asks which one of them should really be embarrassed. The male students turn to him confused, asking what his problem is. Then Alto points out that even right after the exam, Mia was the first one to start training. He's asking which one of them should really be embarrassed. He calls them out for insulting someone working their hardest, saying they're violating the code of chivalry. Meanwhile, Alto reflects on his own experience over the past 3 years since the rite of aptitude. He kept training without breaking despite hearing countless words like these. He knows better than anyone how painful this is and how incredible it is to never give up. The students suddenly recognize Alto. One realizes he's from an outside exam, another notes they've never seen his face before but he's talking big. But then one of them puts it together. He's the one who took down Bon Bon in a single hit. Alto thinks to himself about the school, realizing he knew there would be a lot of nobles but still finds the situation concerning. Mia approaches Alto and thanks him, then introduces herself as Mia Knightley, a student at the Knight Academy. Alto tells her it's nothing worth thanking him for, but Mia mentions she saw his match today and his magic was so refined and amazing. She asks Alto how she can become as strong as him. Alto asks Mia if she has any magic she's good at, since he can't really say anything until he sees her ability first. Mia mentions the highest level one she's got is a unique skill. Alto gets excited and asks if she can show him, but Mia asks if Alto could make some flames float instead. Alto agrees and casts Fireball. Then Mia immediately counters with Dispel Shot, and Alto watches in shock as his magic completely vanishes without a trace. Alto can't believe what just happened. He's read plenty of books about unique skills but never heard of anything like this before. Mia explains it's called Magic Resolve, where a small bullet pierces the skill's magic core and nullifies it. Right then, Alto realizes what incredible power she has. Mia admits she can't control it properly. That last shot was just pure luck. The mana waves between their skills interfere with each other and the trajectory shifts, so on bad days, even shooting 100 times might not land a single hit. Alto understands that even if someone can raise a skills level, handling it properly is a completely different matter. He suggests Mia can use him for practice, and Mia looks surprised at the offer. Meanwhile, Mia worries about whether she actually hit Alto or not. Alto reassures her, mentioning he had a hard time once because he couldn't control multiple skills at once. He thinks it's hard unless someone actually clashes magic against magic and learns the feel for it. Then Alto admits he messes up starting around the guest area, but explains his unique skill allows him to keep it activated unconsciously, firing every time with the same trajectory and power, as shown by his consistent second shots. Alto points out it's perfect for practice since every shot is truly chantless and identical. Mia thanks him so much and says she's starting to get the hang of it with this. Alto responds positively, Mia agrees enthusiastically, and Alto declares they should get started with the training. The training session continues as Alto stands in the practice field with multiple fireball projectiles floating around him. Mia shouts Dispel Shot and fires her magic nullifying bullet at one of them. The shot narrowly misses, almost connecting with one of Alto's magic spheres. 30 minutes later, Mia collapses on the ground completely exhausted, her mana reserves totally depleted. Alto apologizes for keeping her there so long, but mentions this is training for him too. Mia asks if Alto has a larger mana pool since he's using way more skills than she is. Alto admits that at first he was worse than everyone else at magic, then explains that Mia must have worked really hard because mana capacity isn't actually connected to magical aptitude. Mia suddenly bows deeply before Alto and asks him to take her as his apprentice. Alto is completely caught off guard by the request. Then Mia looks up with determination and declares she wants to become strong like him. Meanwhile, Mia reflects on her situation. She's always stuck at the bottom of the class and failed this exam too. She recalls other students telling her she's so weak she's not even good practice, finishing last place again. But despite all this, Mia passionately declares she wants to become someone who can have confidence in her own strength. Even though she's weak, she'll work as hard as Alto does. Alto relates to Mia's struggles since her situation is similar to what he went through. He doesn't think he can actually teach her anything though. Still, Alto accepts her request and tells her he's counting on her. Mia thanks him profusely and offers to help by showing people around the school and doing daily chores, doing her best even though she can't repay him in a big way. Alto admits he doesn't really know his way around campus, so that would actually help a lot. Mia agrees enthusiastically. 2 weeks later, the second exam begins at a dungeon site. Over the next few days, the dungeon exam will run with 5 people per day attempting to clear it. Mia watches the participants gather and wonders if Alto will be all right. Meanwhile, one of the examiners smirks and wonders how long until Alto drops out. Inside the dungeon, someone mentions it's been a while since they've been in a dungeon and finds it fun. They discuss how the exam location changes depending on the day. Someone confirms this prevents students from making maps and cheating, since the dungeon isn't always in the same place. Before the second exam begins, an examiner explains that knights take on a range of missions like escorting and dungeon raids. For the second exam, the students will be conquering a dungeon. Alto recalls the details and realizes his body feels heavy and his skills are weaker than usual. He figures out the dungeon itself must have a debuff effect on it. The purpose this time is to evaluate their adaptability. Even for the organizers, having high-rank monsters in the test dungeon would be a big risk, so the debuff makes sense as a way to test how students handle impaired conditions. Alto descends into the dungeon entrance, glad things are progressing smoothly. This time he's constantly scanning for traps and enemies with his auto magic. Alto makes his way through the dungeon floors, setting his search target to find the rarest item around, and the treasure on the final floor is probably the rarest one. He reaches the stairs leading down and notes they're almost at the 10th floor. Then Alto uses his detection tool and it immediately gets a reaction, displaying a map with the target location. He thinks to himself that they're clearing this at a pretty good pace. Alto completes the dungeon and returns safely to report his quest cleared. The examiners observe that his stamina also seems more than sufficient. One examiner checks Alto's route with a farsight crystal and confirms his choices and pacing were perfectly balanced. Alto is marked as passed. He thanks them for their evaluation, but suddenly someone yells out, accusing Alto of totally cheating. The accuser claims there's no way a no-skill like Alto could clear this dungeon and insists he must have cheated. Alto calmly states he didn't do anything like that. Meanwhile, Duke Wilo erupts in anger, shouting that the results strengthen the princess faction. His subordinates frantically apologize, not wanting His Highness to be displeased as well. Duke Wilo declares he's counting on them not to fail and vows he will have his son pass first to raise the prestige of the prince's faction. He swears he will definitely bring Alto down in the next exam. Someone suggests Duke Wilo must have put a debuff on Alto to mess him up, since his father personally hired professionals from the underworld. Another voice counters that Alto must have had someone from outside buff him too, calling him a coward. They insist there's no way he could clear a high-difficulty dungeon while under a stamina-reducing debuff. But then an official steps in, stating he was monitoring Alto through a remote crystal during the exam and saw nothing suspicious. He asks what exactly is unfair about Alto's performance, and the nobleman is left stuttering without a response. The older noble asks Bon Bone if he has any reason to believe Alto can't be won over. Bon Bone looks irritated but doesn't respond directly. The official announces they'll continue the test and calls for the next participant, Mia Knightley. Someone nervously confirms their proceeding. Bon Bone walks away confidently while his associates anxiously ask if they're good and whether anyone found out about the cheating. Before the next test rolls around, Alto congratulates Mia on passing and tells her to do her best. Mia promises she'll give it everything she's got. Later in the training area, Mia explains she's been practicing hard for 2 weeks straight, so she should be totally fine. Alto agrees with her, but even so, he can't shake this nagging concern as he watches her head into the dungeon all by herself. A few hours pass, and Alto starts to notice that Mia's taking quite a while in there. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Mia's fighting through with absolutely everything she has. But then eventually, this armored examiner appears right in front of her and straight up declares her unqualified and lacking skill. The examiner explains that if the dungeon deems someone incapable of clearing it, they're automatically sent back to the entrance. Suddenly, Alto sees Mia get ejected from the dungeon, and he immediately rushes over to her, asking if she's okay. Mia just mutters that it's impossible. The situation's pretty dire now since she's failed 2 out of the 3 exams, meaning she has to earn 3 emblems in the final test just to pass. Despite all this though, Mia tells Alto she won't give up yet. She thanks him for worrying about her but insists she's okay. Alto just watches her with concern, completely unable to find the right words. After the second test ends, an examiner addresses everyone about the final exam. In 1 week, they'll have a team battle where students form pairs for a mock duel. The rules are simple. Anyone whose barrier is broken will be considered unable to fight. If both members of a team are rendered unable to fight, that team loses. The examiner notes that quite a few people have already given up after ending up with zero emblem. Normally, any applicant for a night selection exam would be allowed to participate, but the situation has changed dramatically. The examiner continues, explaining that those who came to the venue today will be divided into teams for the third test. Opponents will be revealed on the day of the match itself, and the day before will be used for preparation. He dismisses everyone. As the students disperse, someone observes that the number of people has dropped significantly compared to the first test, less than half remaining at this point. Mia notes that most people have zero emblems after all. Mia asks if there's still a chance someone could succeed next time, like, if they try 3 more times, could it happen? Alto mentions that among the people who didn't get the emblem, apparently quite a few gave up even after passing the first and second exams. Mia says that's what her senior told her, adding that there haven't been cases like that before. Alto responds that if the chances are almost zero, it's pretty understandable why people would give up. Mia just looks at him quietly for a moment. Then Alto tells her that even so, she should be proud of herself for still being here. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, Mia casts Dispel Shot and the spell barely misses its target. Someone notes how close it was. A male student observes that it's still impossible for her to hit intermediate-level skills, and while the spell hits at close range, that approach is way too dangerous. Mia thanks Alto, saying her accuracy has improved compared to before. Alto calls out to her, mentioning they also learned that accuracy changes depending on skill level. Someone suggests they keep tuning things like this before the third test. Suddenly, an older nobleman in formal court attire approaches, wearing an official's badge. Alto notices the court official's badge and wonders who's there. The nobleman says he found where they were. Mia looks up in shock and realizes it's her father. Alto recognizes him as Count Nitre, Mia's father. The Count says he heard Mia failed the night exam both times. Mia quietly confirms this. The Count continues, saying that people at court are talking about it, wondering if she still intends to keep at it. He says they're calling her a fool, claiming the daughter of Count Nitre has no talent for becoming a knight. Alto steps forward and asks the Count to wait a moment. Mia tries to apologize, saying she's trying so hard. But the Count asks who Alto is and questions whether he thinks effort alone can make someone a knight. He adds that no matter how hard someone tries, results are everything, and this disgrace is beginning to stain the whole family. Mia looks on with concern. Alto starts to object, but the Count cuts him off, stating that nobles have their own roles and responsibilities, then tells them not to disgrace the family name any further. Then the Count delivers his ultimatum: if Mia fails every exam, she'll be banished. Mia just stares at him in complete shock. After Count Nitre's departure, Alto sits on the steps, mentioning how the Count said his piece and then just bailaed. Mia sits beside him looking totally dejected, explaining that her father is always like that. She goes on about how no one expects anything from her since she wasn't blessed with talent for magic. Her father was against her entering the Knight Academy in the first place. Even after enrolling, she just kept failing the exams. But despite everything, she still wants to keep trying. Mia declares that people said there's no way she could ever become a knight, but she wants to prove her father wrong. Alto agrees with her determination. Meanwhile, in a room at the royal court, Duke Wilo confronts Bon Bon about his failures. He says he had high hopes for him, but Bon's failed twice now. Bon Bon apologizes profusely, saying he's truly sorry. The Duke reminds him that next is the final test and there's no turning back. Bon Bon swears he'll succeed this time. But meanwhile, the Duke thinks to himself about Alto being such a stubborn bastard. The Duke asks what the concrete plan is, noting that talk is cheap. Someone explains the final exam is a team battle and they'll pair Alto with the weakest student first. They mention number 1, that hopeless little girl everyone talks about. Then they'll add even more poison as expected, and they've prepared something special that only the antidote can heal. The Duke notes the poison is rare and well prepared, complementing the thoroughness of the plan. Meanwhile, outside, Alto and Mia walk together. Mia reflects that she never thought she'd get to be paired with Alto for the final exam. Alto says he didn't expect it either, mentions the opponents will be announced tomorrow, so there's no point worrying about it now. Alto tells Mia he's really happy to be paired with her, adding that since they both know each other's fighting styles, it should be easy to coordinate. He encourages her to do their best together tomorrow. Mia says she'll do her best so she doesn't drag him down. Alto reassures Mia that she'll be fine since she's trained so hard her efforts will add up and help save them. Mia hopes he's right. As Alto walks away, he notes the sun's already setting and they need to rest since tomorrow's the final exam. They should get in perfect condition. Mia agrees. But as Alto continues walking, an unknown male figure approaches and asks if he can talk to Alto for a moment. Someone in the background asks Bon if he did something. Bon approaches Alto saying he really wants to make up for how he's treated him. Alto is completely caught off guard by the sudden apology. Bon says he's sorry, explains that he was thinking about how tomorrow he'd finally become a knight. When he looked back, he realized he'd been acting really immature toward Alto. He continues that Alto is so talented he just couldn't help but get competitive, and since they might end up working together as fellow knights, it's not really a big deal. Bon asks Alto to please let him apologize properly. Someone observes that tomorrow is the final exam and even a training enthusiast like Alto will rest, though it feels pretty suspicious. Alto and Bon shake hands. Bon suggests having a meal together and offers to treat Alto to a popular restaurant. Alto says he's not really in the mood, but figures if they became coworkers, leftover resentment could affect their work. Alto agrees that if it's just a meal then fine. Bon enthusiastically says great and they should go right away. They arrive at the restaurant and Bon says this is the place, mentions the chef is an acquaintance of his, so he'll go say hi real quick. 1 hour later, Bon asks if the meal met Alto's expectations. Alto admits the food here really is on another level. Then Alto suggests they should get some rest for tomorrow and Bon agrees. Alto gives a somewhat strained acknowledgement. Alto walks outside alone, thinking he managed to make it back. Turns out he started feeling ill while eating and wonders if Bon did something to him. Alto considers whether it's just a cold, but he's experiencing dizziness, vertigo, and chills too. Meanwhile, at the exam arena, someone notes that Alto is late, points out that he's usually the one who acts early, not showing up until the very last minute. Then Alto appears dramatically before the crowd. Mia calls out to him, shocked by how pale his face looks and asking what's wrong. Alto admits it looks like he caught a cold but says he's fine and can still fight somehow. But Mia insists she's never seen Alto so worn out before and that he's definitely not okay. She tells him to please report to Captain Arthur and ask to move his turn down so he can get some rest. Alto hesitates but thinks to himself that once he becomes a knight, he can't afford to take breaks for being unwell, and this is part of the test to become one. Then Captain Arthur announces he'll now reveal the matchups for the first round. Captain Arthur announces the first round matchup, the Altomia Nitri team versus the Bon Bon Gregory Barnes team. Someone in the crowd realizes this means Alto can't rest since it's the first match. Another observer notes that Alto is going up against Bon, who already has it out for him, and Gregory, the one Mia couldn't beat before. Mia looks absolutely shocked at the announcement. Alto tells Mia they'll be fine despite his condition, and Mia reminds him that he's going to prove his father wrong. She affirms this with enthusiasm. Then the two teams face each other in the arena, and Alto stands hunched over, clearly unwell and struggling. Gregory approaches with an exaggerated, mocking tone, asking Alto if he's okay and fake laughing at his condition. Alto recognizes what's happening and realizes Gregory was in on whatever Bon did to him. The official announces the start of the match, and immediately Bon launches his attack, casting Fire Lance. Gregory joins the assault, and the combined magical attacks slam into the arena floor with massive explosive force, kicking up dust and debris everywhere. Mia desperately calls out for Alto to defend himself, and Alto, barely able to react in his weakened state, manages to summon an ice wall. The massive ice barrier erupts from the ground just in time to block the incoming attacks. Alto apologizes to Mia, struggling to catch his breath and clearly at his limit. Mia asks if he's alright, her voice filled with concern, but Gregory just laughs confidently, declaring this is going to be easy. He immediately follows up by casting Fireball Rain, sending a barrage of flaming projectiles raining down across the entire arena toward Alto and Mia's position. Mia yells out and casts Hail Shot, sending a barrage of ice projectiles across the arena. Alto, struggling through his weakened state, grunts and somehow manages to activate Fireball X16. The massive volley of flaming spheres rains down across the battlefield while Mia's ice magic fills the air from the opposite direction. Multiple explosions erupt across the arena floor as the spells collide and impact. Alto thanks Mia for her support, and she responds that he's always helping her, so it's only natural she helps him now. But suddenly an observer calls out as one of the opponents makes a move. Someone gets knocked violently across the arena. Mia immediately recognizes the danger and realizes this is a pincer attack. She calls out that they'll have to fight separately. Meanwhile, one of their opponents casts Sand Press, and massive earth constructs begin forming around them. Someone recognizes that Alto just used an advanced skill. Alto attempts to activate Fire Advanced Lance despite his condition. He struggles internally, unable to properly gather his mana in his weakened state. Mia calls out to Alto in concern, then screams as the situation worsens. Alto takes a heavy hit from an attack. Gregory yells for his spell to crush them. Alto realizes the technique formation is complete, but he has no choice except to fire it despite his mana problem. Then a massive explosion erupts across the arena. The impact creates an enormous crater with Alto at the center, shown from an aerial view. Alto lies collapsed on the ground, bloodied and badly injured. Someone observes that they somehow managed to avoid a direct hit, but the damage is still severe. A text box explains that auto magic also acts as a substitute for a mana circuit, and the mana that forms the skill depends on the user's condition. Gregory taunts Alto, asking what's wrong and fires off Sand Shot. Alto grunts and counters with Fireball, dodging desperately. He realizes this is bad. If this turns into a battle of endurance, they'll lose. Alto's barely holding on through the pain and doesn't know when he'll lose consciousness. He thinks strategically that he must avoid a situation where Mia ends up fighting 2-on-1. Alto's face hardens with determination as he resolves that even if it costs him his life, he'll take Gregory down. In the background, Mia continues fighting her own opponent. Alto commands his spell to activate Fire Lance. Meanwhile, Gregory reacts in complete shock at the massive size of the incoming attack, realizing it can't be neutralized unless he uses a high-level skill to counter it. Desperately, Gregory casts Sand Press to defend himself, and the two massive spells collide with explosive force, creating a tremendous impact across the arena floor. Someone in the crowd asks if the attack's cancelled out, but then Alto activates a second Fire Lance. Bon reacts in complete shock, realizing there's a second one, and Gregory screams as the massive fire spell slams into him with explosive force. The attack sends Gregory flying across the arena. Bon announces that Gregory is incapacitated, while Mia reacts in disbelief at what just happened. The observers are stunned that Alto managed to defeat the top-ranked Gregory while poisoned. Someone in the crowd thinks to themselves that this was expected of Alto. But then the scene shows Alto collapsed on the ground with another figure standing nearby. An announcer declares that Alto is down, and Bon starts laughing, admitting Alto really scared him for a moment there. Bon grins and taunts that this is the end for Mia, telling her she's such a loser, and that without her buddy Alto, she can't do a damn thing. The arena shows Alto lying collapsed with Mia standing protectively over him, and she responds with a dismissive sound. Meanwhile, Bon reflects on how the original plan was for him and Gregory to exhaust Alto's stamina and finish him off when he was weakened. They were supposed to take down Mia with ease after that, but things didn't go as planned. Bon taunts Mia, claiming a loser like her is nothing and he can take her down all by himself. He casts Fire Lance while Mia defends with Ice Wall, but she notices the power is even stronger than before. Bon continues mocking her, saying she hasn't gotten a single emblem and it's useless to try now. He tells her she can't win just by defending. Mia thinks to herself that she absolutely can't lose, because this time it's not just about her own future, but Alto's path to knighthood is on the line too. Then Bon unleashes his assault, taunting that Mia's magic, mana, and skills are all way too weak. He declares it's time to show her the difference in class, and his Fire Lance barrage shatters through Mia's ice defenses with overwhelming power. Suddenly, someone realizes Bon just used 5 intermediate skills at once. Mia stands there in shock as the crowd's reactions blur together in the background. She clenches her fists, trembling. With her current skill level, there's just no way she can win, and her dream is about to end right here. Bon yells for her to see ya later, loser, and another massive attack barrels toward Mia. But she notices something strange though. Just one of the projectiles is actually on trajectory toward her. The attack lands and someone gets knocked sliding across the arena floor. The warning comes too late. If someone takes an intermediate skill without a barrier, at best they'll be seriously injured at worst. Well, the explosive impact throws Mia back as someone screams Alto's name. The scene pulls back to reveal the grand arena hall where this whole battle is unfolding. Meanwhile, Mia's thoughts drift to a memory. She happened to be there at the aptitude ceremony where Alto was declared a no-skill. He looked hopeless, weak, and unsteady. She impulsively called out to him, but he didn't notice and just walked away. Both of them were born nobles, yet their magic aptitude was low. Then half a year later, that same kid was banished from his home. She saw him training alone deep in the forest. Maybe she felt a bit of kinship with him, since they were both seen as burdens or nuisances. But despite having lower magic aptitude and harsher circumstances than her, Alto's eyes had not yet lost their light. Mia, who had always been pitied and overly concerned with those around her, was deeply moved by how he kept striving without wavering. Before she knew it, she had come to admire him even on low wages. He worked earnestly and cast off teammates who insulted him. Even though his stamina must have long since reached its limit, he kept training on his own. Mia's thoughts continue. There was no way she could slack off when she lived in a more fortunate environment than Alto. Encouraged by him, she began training and worked desperately to catch up. As a result of working hard on her own, she earned her ticket to enter the Royal Knight Academy. For about 3 years after enrolling, she kept pushing herself even though everyone made fun of her. That was exactly why she didn't have any time to rest. Then when she spotted him at the briefing for the knight selection exams, her heart leapt in her chest. When he showed his overwhelming skill, she realized he was someone far beyond her, from another world entirely. Seeing him being recognized by everyone, she felt a strange mix of joy and loneliness. She'd gathered a lifetime's worth of courage to speak to him, now her classmate. Even when she shamelessly asked him questions, he was kind, and even with a troubled look on his face, he thought about things earnestly. Because his presence was the center of her heart, she never broke no matter what happened, no matter what she could keep facing forward, and no matter what she was able to stand up again. That's why this time it was her turn to save him. Mia launches herself forward on an ice slide, determination burning in her eyes she would reach him. Then Mia's ice magic slams into Bon's attack, creating a massive explosion of magical energy. Bon yells at her to mind her own business, calling Alto a half-dead bastard as the collision sends shockwaves through the arena, the two forces clashing hard. Alto realizes at close range he can hit, but it's dangerous. Meanwhile, Mia thinks this time has to be the end, that at the very least she has to protect Alto. She casts her spell, Dispel Shot, and the magic fires toward Bon's dark energy sphere. The magical clash erupts as Mia's Dispel Shot collides with Bon's dark energy sphere. Bon reacts in shock to what just happened. The observers notice the technique vanishing completely. Bon had been confident his victory was guaranteed, thinking his magic power was even higher, but now he can't believe what's happening. Something feels different to Bon now. He realizes it's somehow easier to control his magic, and his strength is surging. His rage takes over and he screams at Mia that she should know her place and should be dead already, launching another attack. The two fighters exchange magical projectiles across the arena, multiple glowing spheres of magic flying through the air between them as the battle intensifies. Then they close in for direct combat. Mia sees her opening and announces that at this distance, she won't miss with her Dispel Shot. She targets the dark sphere directly and fires. Bon cries out as his barrier shatters, and he can only watch in horror as his protective barrier completely breaks apart. An official announces that the winners are Mia Knightley and Alto. Mia rushes to Alto's side, trying to wake him up. When someone explains that the antidote will help with the poison, Alto was given offering it, so he'll feel better right away. Alto thanks everyone for their help and apologizes when learning about the poison. But suddenly someone in the crowd accuses Mia of clearly cheating, pointing out that it's weird for a failure to suddenly get stronger. They claim someone buffed Mia after Alto went down. Meanwhile, observers note that Mia definitely had a buff that enhanced her magic control, but that enhancement was activated before Alto was incapacitated. Alto himself had known something was off. An observer notes that it's all within the rules and there's no sign Alto activated any skill afterward. Meanwhile, Bon erupts in confusion, insisting that Alto never used a strengthening skill while fighting them. Then Duke Wilo's voice booms from the stands, declaring it impossible that such a thing could happen in an instant. Someone explains that even if Alto did cast a buff, Mia defeated Bon because of the raw strength she built through hard work, and they add that neither Bon nor his team could measure up to Alto or Mia. But then the accusation turns back on the accuser when someone points out that Bon is actually the one who cheated. Bon stammers and denies the accusations, insisting he has no idea what they're talking about and calling the cheating claim impossible. The officials reveal they've already confirmed Bon's involvement in the sabotage, explaining that someone acted under orders from Bon and his father. Bon desperately denies it, claiming none of it is true and he has no idea what they're talking about. But the officials continue, stating they know Bon was also receiving money from Count Born and that they've discovered how he obtained the poison used on Alto. Bon is shown being restrained. An official declares that a man who wishes to become a knight but poisons his opponent deserves death, ordering them to take Bon away. Bon screams desperately, begging them to stop. Alto watches, asking himself why Bon went so far to try to get rid of him, admitting he can't pity Bon considering what he's done. Bon cries out for his father, screaming for help as he's dragged away. Then Captain Arthur apologizes to Alto, explaining he knew Alto had been poisoned but deliberately chose not to intervene. He reveals this was also to see the full extent of Alto's abilities and how he'd deal with a conspiracy. Alto takes some responsibility for letting himself be poisoned so easily. Arthur acknowledges that Alto countered the situation head-on, then notes that this time Alto strengthened his teammates and led them to victory. He declares that Alto is worthy of receiving the emblem of team strength. Alto thanks him earnestly. Arthur calls out to Mia next, mentioning he's heard that her unique skill is supposedly a useless one, something that serves no real purpose in practice. Mia quietly confirms it's true, but then Arthur tells her that she believed in her own strength and never stopped moving forward to reach this point, so he's awarding her the emblem of effort. Mia's face shows pure shock and emotion at receiving the recognition. Meanwhile, Captain Arthur addresses Alto, thanking him for his service. He points out how Alto faced the crisis head-on when a trusted comrade fell, yet somehow overcame the challenge brilliantly and completely turned the tide. The captain presents an emblem, awarding Alto the emblem of adaptability. The narration describes how Alto, though born a noble, never once looked down on his commoner allies and cared for his comrades until the very end. By drawing on the strength of his companions, he demonstrated power way beyond his limits. The authority figure tells someone there's still plenty of room for improvement, but they're counting on them. Mia holds up her emblem, deeply moved as she receives the emblem of team spirit, thanking them over and over again. A female observer congratulates Mia, telling her this is the result of all her hard work. But Mia turns to Alto, insisting it's all thanks to him. Suddenly, Alto calls out to Mia, pointing towards someone in the crowd. Mia notices her father standing there and quietly addresses him. She announces that she became a knight. Count Nitre responds coldly, asking if that's so, then declares it has nothing to do with the Nitre family and tells her to do whatever she wants. Alto tries to comfort Mia, explaining that her father just can't honestly say he's counting on her. Someone nearby agrees hesitantly. Alto continues, saying he gets it because his own father wasn't like that either, remembering his father's eyes when he abandoned him. Mia considers this for a moment, thinking that would be nice. Then she declares with renewed determination that she'll work hard so that someday her father will truly acknowledge her. 1 month after the night selection exam, Alto and Mia are walking together in their new night uniform. Mia comments that she never thought she'd end up in the same squad as Alto. Alto agrees, saying he was really surprised when he heard the news since usually new knights get assigned one per unit. Someone explains that this case is special after all. They mention it's a newly formed unit under the direct command of the princess, the 7th Royal Guard, and the captain is Captain Arthur. The voice continues, noting Arthur is a genius who was appointed as captain at the youngest age in history, so there must be a special reason for forming this unit. Alto's still processing this information when suddenly Lily appears, calling out his name. Alto recognizes her immediately. Turns out Lily's been assigned to the 7th Royal Guard too. Lily excitedly tells Alto she's happy to be on the same team as him, and Alto responds that he's happy too. Then Alto introduces the two girls, telling Mia this is his childhood friend Lily. Lily bows politely and introduces herself while Alto notes that Mia is Lily's junior at the academy. Mia responds somewhat stiffly, saying it's nice to meet her and that she already knows about Lily. But Lily adds with an intense look that she's actually known about Mia since the aptitude ceremony. Alto explains that Mia is a comrade who took the exam with him and passed. Someone asks if that means Mia is a rookie like Alto. Lily enthusiastically says she's looking forward to working together. Lily extends her hand for a handshake while Mia just stands there shocked, unable to believe Alto had a childhood friend and that nobody told her. Meanwhile, as they're talking outside, a new voice calls out asking if they're the new recruits. An older man with blonde wavy hair and a mustache approaches in a formal knight uniform. Alto sizes him up mentally. The guy's probably in his mid-30s and definitely senior to Lily. Alto introduces himself, saying his name is Alto and he's been assigned to the 7th Guard starting today. Mia introduces herself simply as Mia, and Lily gives her name as well. Then the older man introduces himself as Count Frankie Guilford, head of the Count's house and a member of the 7th Guard. Someone observes that it's pretty rare for a knight from a Count's household to be serving directly. Meanwhile, Lily asks about the uniform, wondering if he's this year's top recruit. Alto thinks to himself that even recruits get knight uniforms after all. Then Count Frankie addresses them, noting that the knight position is idolized and asking about joining as top recruit. He tells them he gets why they're excited, but warns that the knight's work isn't easy. Alto reacts with surprise when Frankie mentions they're also known as the Arthur Squad. Suddenly, Frankie announces that it may be sudden, but he needs to see if they can handle being in the 7th Royal Guard. Count Frankie declares he'll show them the true strength of a real knight. Someone sighs while Alto wonders why it always ends up like this. The narration reveals it's a mock battle. The two face each other at a distance. Count Frankie explains the rules, saying it's a traditional dueling format where one hit decides it. If Alto's barrier is chipped even a little by his opponent's attack, he loses. Alto acknowledges the rules. Then Count Frankie announces he's striking first and unleashes Dragon Breath. The massive attack engulfs the area as Alto observes in shock that Frankie used an advanced skill instantly. But the Count doesn't stop there. He follows up with a sword strike, pressing his advantage with a devastating combination attack. The massive Dragon Breath and Sword Strike combination hits with explosive force. Count Frankie stares in shock as his attack is somehow blocked. He thinks his attack should have been faster than Alto's reaction, wondering how it was stopped. Count Frankie realizes that if it were a mid-tier skill like Hail Shot, his Fire Lance would have broken through easily. Meanwhile, Alto looks damaged on the ground, noticing they pierced his barrier along with his Fire Lance. The Count can't believe it, even with their vision obstructed. Alto countered perfectly with power at the advanced -1 level or higher. Alto reviews the auto-defense magic he set up based on the lesson from the last match. The code shows that if fire or water magic approaches and reaches a certain distance, it automatically activates a counter spell to repel the attack. and if auto defense triggers, it casts hail shot automatically. Count Frankie walks over asking what Alto's doing, and Alto stammers that he was just. When someone else comments asking if Frankie was trying to give the rookie a baptism, then says whatever. Then Captain Arthur introduces himself, announcing he'll be the captain of the 7th Royal Guard and their superior starting today. Count Frankie notes they've already finished the introductions, but Arthur tells them they're heading straight to work now. First they'll go meet their superior, and he tells everyone to follow him. The group walks through the royal palace interior, and Alto recognizes the path, feeling like he's been here once before. They approach these ornate doors where 2 guards stand watch, and as the doors open, someone in white robes appears as the group enters. Suddenly Princess Charlotte calls out happily to Alto. Alto awkwardly responds that it's been a while, and the princess congratulates him enthusiastically, saying he's become a knight starting today as she reaches out toward him. Meanwhile in the background, Lily and Mia look shocked by this familiar interaction between Alto and the princess. Alto thanks the princess awkwardly, but Princess Charlotte insists it was a dream that could never have come true without her recommendation. She emphasizes with conviction that someone as talented as Alto not being able to become a knight would be unacceptable. In the background, Lily calls out to Alto telling him not to be rude to the princess. Mia agrees nervously, and someone else confirms that Alto is definitely right to be grateful. Count Frankie interrupts politely, suggesting they get to the point since the princess is busy. Someone agrees they should move to the main topic. Then Princess Charlotte begins explaining how the 7th Royal Guard was established. She tells them the unit was newly formed, directly under her command as the princess. Mia acknowledges that she's sure they're all newly aware of this. The princess continues, revealing that right now conflict is brewing in the court, or rather, it's already simmering beneath the surface. Princess Charlotte states plainly that this is a battle for the throne. She explains that the crown prince, the one to inherit the throne, hasn't been decided yet. The candidates are herself, Charlotte, the king's first child, and her younger brother Richard. She lays out the family structure with a diagram showing the king, the queen, herself as the first child and legitimate heir, then the king's mistress, and Prince Richard as the second child born out of wedlock. Alto looks at the information as Charlotte notes the question of succession has become quite a complicated affair. Princess Charlotte reveals that the king's intention is to make her the crown prince. However, Minister Wailo, who holds the greatest power in court, supports her younger brother Richard, making her a political rival to the minister. Alto realizes this is the same Minister Wailo who was talking with Bon earlier. Charlotte explains that Minister Wailo is a man who will use any means to achieve his goals. There may be times when her life is targeted, which is exactly why she established the unit, to ask for protection in such circumstances. Princess Charlotte declares that from here on, she intends to strengthen her action toward the succession to the throne. She has no intention of just standing by and watching someone like Minister Wailo take control of the nation's core. Count Frankie notes that everyone except the newcomers already knows the 3rd Royal Guard has already been assigned as Her Highness's escort. However, it was decided that wouldn't be enough. A more flexible unit than ever before would be needed, leading to the formation of this direct command force. In other words, from now on they'll be engaged in critical operations. Count Frankie announces they're on an important mission that will determine the country's future course, and they will be engaged in this task. He tells them he selected the members himself and will take responsibility for everything they do. Lily looks uncomfortable with the weight of this. He explains his selection criteria, noting that Lily has earned her current trust through ability, not political power. Alto was once a noble but is now a commoner, and Mia has little connection with the nobility. Skill is essential, of course, but the most important thing is that they're not under Minister Wailo's influence. Mia mentions that as the chosen head of the Count's family, she's involved in this whole situation. Then Count Frankie clarifies it's purely based on ability, but then he adds that it's actually because Mero absolutely hates her. Someone reacts to this brutally blunt statement. Count Frankie keeps going, noting that her smug attitude and blunt way of speaking have earned her the minister's displeasure. Someone mutters that he really doesn't have to explain the reason like that. Meanwhile, Mia looks completely deflated by this harsh assessment. Count Frankie announces that without delay, their guard mission will begin tomorrow. Princess Charlotte explains her plan. She's leaving the royal palace tomorrow to visit the eastern city of Minton. A map shows the route stretching from the royal palace all the way to Minton. She adds that the 7th Royal Guard will be accompanying them as well. Alto recalls that Minton is the big city where Lily went shopping before entering the Knight Academy. He notes it's quite a large city. He remembers going there once as a porter and how prosperous the place was back then. Princess Charlotte explains the real purpose of their journey is to seek out cooperation from Duke Minton, one of the most prominent nobles in the entire country. She mentions that at this rate she'll have no allies left at all. In the Grand Hall, someone commands everyone to make preparations for their missions starting tomorrow. The guards respond with a sharp, unified acknowledgement. From above, someone observes Captain Arthur walking through the grand hallway and comments on seeing him there. Then Minister Wero approaches and mentions, hearing that Arthur has become the captain of the princess's personal guard. Arthur responds that he's honored by the praise and congratulates the minister on his promotion, addressing him properly as Minister Wero. The captain stands there in his formal military uniform, clearly on edge from this tense encounter. Suddenly, Alto and Minister Wero lock eyes for a long, tense moment. The minister asks Alto if something is wrong, calling him Sir Weasley, whether he sees someone he knows perhaps. Arthur quickly responds that there's nothing wrong, minister. But Alto just remains silent, looking away from his father's gaze. Alto stares ahead, thinking to himself that he's nothing but a stranger to the minister now. He reflects that he knew it would be this way, but his father really has abandoned him completely. The realization hits hard. His father no longer considers him his son anymore. Nearby, Lily and Mia watch the whole painful exchange with concerned expressions on their faces. Minister Wero speaks cheerfully to Arthur, mentioning he's looking forward to seeing him do even greater things as the genius of the Night Order. Then someone tells Arthur to make sure he doesn't push himself too hard, but Arthur responds that it's fine. Meanwhile, Count Frankie watches from behind as the minister and his group walk away down the hallway, quietly observing the whole exchange. Later, in a room at the royal court, a woman with long hair tells the gathered conspirators that they've confirmed the lead on Minton, so she'll be leaving the capital herself before the day is out. The man with glasses says he'll send word to the active unit right away, and someone tells him to please do. According to the minister's intel, the 7th Guard arrived today, and they confirm they'll proceed with the plan as scheduled. The older man sitting on the couch responds that of course they will. Then the man with glasses reminds them not to forget to make preparations for the celebration, and someone agrees. The older man thinks to himself that 3 days from now will be the princess's dear anniversary. Meanwhile, the 3rd and 7th Royal Guards escort Princess Charlotte through the forest toward Minton. Prioritizing safety, the group decides to spend the night in the forest along the way. At the campsite, Lily tells Mia she's glad to be on night watch with her since she feels safe, and they should do their best. Mia nervously responds that it's nice to meet her. Lily mentions she was nervous guarding the princess, but it's a road merchants use all the time. She notes it's good that it's a road where no monsters should appear. Mia just remains stoic. Lily asks if she's still uneasy, pointing out that Alto was top of the selection exam. Lily herself is the most skilled among the young knights, and Frankie's a veteran. She wonders if Mia is anxious about whether someone like her even belongs here. Mia thinks to herself that she hasn't done anything yet. Lily reminds Mia that Captain Arthur recognized her too and thinks highly of her. She adds that Alto said Mia's maybe even more hardworking than he is, great at teamwork, and someone who never gives up. Alto had noted that the hard worker acknowledges her, and that she can be confident in herself. Mia recalls this and thinks that if Alto says that about her, she has to face this with confidence. She resolves that it's right. Then Lily casually mentions that she and Alto took the aptitude ceremony together, asking Mia to confirm. Mia's face goes into shocked swirls as she stammers about how Lily knows that. Lily says not to worry about it, she just thought she'd check while Alto wasn't around. She apologizes for keeping quiet about knowing. Suddenly, Mia covers her mouth and warns that they're surrounded. Lily notices something in the forest. Lily realizes something is wrong with the forest. Even in the dead of night in a forest, there should still be faint signs of animals moving. The fact that there's none of that means something. A massive hellhound appears silently beside her. Lily notes it appeared without a sound, just as she'd expected of an A-rank hellhound. The creature looms over them. Hellhounds form packs and establish a clear pecking order within, and the first one to show up is the lowest-ranking decoy. Someone explains that hellhounds sense the enemy's strength and hunt only the ones they can definitely kill. That means the lodging base with more people and stronger fighters is probably safe. Lily tells Mia she'll find a way to clear a path, so Mia should defend herself and call for everyone's support. Mia agrees. The pack of hellhounds emerges from the darkness surrounding them. Lily summons her holy sword in a burst of radiant light. Lily unleashes a massive light attack against the hellhound, and the light creates an opening in their formation. But when Lily strikes the creature with her sword, it won't cut through. The blade can't penetrate the hellhound's hide, it's as hard as steel. Normally she could decapitate one in a single strike, but this isn't just any hellhound. Lily decides she'll strike its weak spot instead, aiming for inside the mouth. She lunges toward the hellhound's open jaws as the creature's massive teeth snap at her. Meanwhile, multiple hellhounds close in from all sides as the battle intensifies. Turns out everyone in the pack had the same toughness as the decoy. Mia calls out to Lily in alarm, the odds are way too bad for them. Lily casts Holy Barrier, creating a protective shield of light around herself as the hellhounds attack. The battle rages across the forest clearing when someone calls out for Mia, noting that she still can't deploy ice in all directions. Mia casts ice wall to defend herself, but Lily's holy barrier only works on herself, leaving Mia exposed. The Hellhounds continue their assault. Lily battles the Hellhound, striking at the creature with her holy sword. The blade connects with impact, but the fight continues. Then Alto arrives through the forest, apologizing for keeping them waiting. Lily calls out to him as he appears. Alto mentions that the detection spell he activated just in case came in handy. Lily tells him she's glad he showed up because the Hellhound's attacks don't even get through. Someone explains that it's wrapped in a high-density barrier-type skill, like an appraisal spell. Alto notes he's never heard of a Hellhound putting up a barrier, and it looks like they'll have to hit it with a massive skill to bring it down. They don't have time to prepare multiple large-scale spells. Alto lays out the plan. He'll draw its attention, Mia will dispel the barrier on its fur, and Lily will finish it for sure. He asks if they can land a guaranteed dispel shot one at a time. Mia confirms she's got it. Alto calls out to move and engages the Hellhound. The coordinated attack begins. Alto rushes in to draw the creature's attention while Mia prepares her dispel magic. The battle unfolds in rapid sequence as they execute their plan. Alto casts Dispel Shot at the Hellhound. The barrier around the creature vanishes. Lily strikes with her holy sword, the blade now able to cut through. The group celebrates their success and decides to keep going with their coordinated approach. Alto moves quickly through the forest back toward camp. At the lodging base, someone notes it looks like the attack didn't reach their position. Count Guilford notices Alto returning and asks if something happened, since it's not time for shift change yet. Alto addresses him as captain. Alto explains that it's highly likely someone is trying to sabotage their journey. Count Guilford pieces it together. An A-class monster that shouldn't even be here appeared, and it was even reinforced with a barrier. He immediately takes command, calling for everyone to wake up. He announces they were ambushed and have wiped out the enemy, but more could be coming. Before the next wave arrives, they should depart now and reach Minton. He orders an immediate advance to Minton. The guards respond and begin mobilizing the camp. The group arrives at Minton Castle, the fortified structures visible from above with the surrounding town spread out below. Duke Minton greets them in his ornate ceremonial robes decorated with crosses, welcoming them and thanking them for coming. One of the group members thanks the Duke for taking the time to meet with them. Duke Minton responds that it's no great honor at all for His Highness to visit the domain of an old provincial lord like himself, then suggests they have a seat instead of standing around talking. Duke Minton acknowledges there's been a bit of trouble lately. He explains that monsters have settled in the abandoned mines and tunnels where magic stones were dug out, and the townsfolk are suffering because of it. Previously, the adventurers managed somehow, but in the past few months, the monsters have grown stronger, so extermination isn't going well anymore. They've been coming back unable to make any progress. He mentions they had requested help from the city's Adventurers Guild, but nothing came of it. The Duke notes that if the monsters have the same defense as the Hellhound from yesterday, an average adventurer wouldn't stand a chance against them. Charlotte proposes entrusting her royal guards with exterminating the monsters. Alto recognizes this as solving another problem in exchange for bringing them into their faction, pretty much a common method of negotiation among nobles, as someone points out. Charlotte says they'll send the 7th Royal Guard led by Captain Arthur, one of their most skilled units, but Duke Minton expresses concern that doing so would reduce the safety of her own precious Royal Guard. Charlotte reassures him it's all right, this time they have more than enough personnel to spare. Duke Minton says he'll assign some of his castle's soldiers to guard the princess as well. Someone thanks him for the offer. Another person mentions that would make their escort thinner though, and Charlotte asks what he means by that. The explanation comes that the 3rd Royal Guard is already stationed here, so there's no problem with numbers. Alto says he appreciates their cooperation. He explains they'll rest tonight and regain their strength, and tomorrow they'll swiftly subjugate the monster. Duke Minton acknowledges they've been traveling through the night until now and thanks them generously for their efforts. Later that night, Alto and Charlotte sit in her room having tea together. Charlotte thanks Alto for coming along on this trip. She asks if he didn't have any plans that this interrupted. Alto says no, nothing in particular, so it's fine. He mentions he was just resting in his room and practicing magic in preparation for tomorrow's battle. Alto asks if calling him here means there's some urgent special mission or something, but Charlotte clarifies it's not a mission, she just wanted to hear his thoughts. Alto appears surprised by this. Then Charlotte asks if she's really doing the right thing, mentioning she's done her best so far to help the people of their country. From her seat at the tea table, Charlotte explains her whole philosophy. She wants to guide the nation so that every citizen can live a satisfying life. She feels it is her duty, and that's why she continues. Charlotte reflects on being born a princess from the very start, always expected to behave worthily and meet those expectations. She remembers how people gather around her, yet her heart grows ever lonelier. Alto considers that she might have also refused the title of princess out of restraint. Then Charlotte asks Alto directly if he thinks she should inherit the throne. Alto realizes this question would normally be considered lèse-majesté depending on the answer, a test for a subject. Yet the princess before him hesitates, not as royalty but as a single girl named Charlotte. She's waiting for an answer not from a subject, but from him as an individual. Alto admits that, to be honest, he doesn't understand much about the throne or the kingdom right now. Charlotte points out that he's the eldest son of a marquis house, educated as such, and asks if he doesn't have a clearer answer than that. Alto acknowledges it's the kind of situation where if he were a retainer, he'd say she's the one destined to be king. Alto says he knows what the formal or correct answer would be. He understands because he's someone who was cast out of his own home. He explains that positions and officials can be replaced, and even a king will be replaced in a few years if things move quickly. Charlotte looks at him quietly as Alto emphasizes that there's no substitute for the person themselves. Then Charlotte smiles with her eyes closed, remembering when Alto lost the Marquis family's backing and came to believe he was worthless. She recalls how her childhood friend reached out to her and taught her otherwise. Alto tells her that whether or not she inherits the throne, it doesn't change the fact that Lady Charlotte's actions saved him. Just the same, he's sure many of the citizens feel the same way. He says her feelings are truly noble, so she should have confidence in what she's done and hold her head high. Charlotte thanks Alto for being honest with her, then tells him that because of that, she's come to like him even more. Alto responds that he'll do his best to live up to her trust. Later, Charlotte mentions that she'll be counting on him for tomorrow's hunt. Alto assures her that he'll make sure they succeed. But after he leaves, Charlotte becomes flustered, realizing she got completely carried away and actually told him she liked him. The next day arrives and monsters have appeared in both tunnel locations. The unit splits into two groups to handle the situation. Frankie and Alto take charge of the southern tunnel while Charlotte, Mia, and Lily handle the eastern tunnel. The operation starts with orders to respond swiftly but precisely. Inside the south tunnel, Frankie establishes that he's the leader now and Alto better listen to what he says. He comments that Alto seems to have made himself a bit useful while Frankie wasn't around. Then Frankie warns him that from here on out, packs of monsters show up that even struggle adventurers have trouble with, so it's not as easy as Alto might think. Alto confirms he understands. Frankie continues his warning, explaining that he's seen plenty of people freeze up and fail to move when it really matters, no matter how talented they were. Some have even lost their lives on their very first mission. He tells Alto that if he thinks the situation is bad, he should speak up right away since Frankie doesn't want the mission getting dragged down. Alto responds with determination that he'll do his very best. Suddenly, a monster shows up already. Frankie notes its appearance, but then realizes it's just an E-rank goblin. He wonders what the hell is going on since he heard the monsters were really strong. Frankie questions whether Captain Arthur was the better pick after all. As the goblin approaches, Frankie notices something strange about its outfit, wondering if it's some kind of special model. Frankie comments that the monsters really are weak after all. Alto agrees but notes that it certainly didn't feel like a normal goblin, though it didn't feel that strong either. Frankie wonders if the town's adventurers were unable to win because they couldn't pierce the monster's clothing. Alto reflects that it felt like a trash monster that didn't even require using skills. Still, Frankie senses something feels off about the whole situation though. An hour passes since they entered the tunnel. A massive spider-like monster appears before them. Frankie notes they've taken down about 10 of these things already, but the place just keeps going deeper. Alto observes that it really is just like a dungeon. After defeating the monster, Alto points out that the amount of encounters is abnormal. The frequency is increasing the further in they go. Frankie agrees, noting it's as if someone intentionally settled monsters here. Unlike a dungeon where monsters just spawn out of nowhere, these seem deliberately placed. Then Alto notices something concerning. There's a well-maintained road marked on the map, but it's not actually on the route they're taking. The path ahead shows signs of collapse. Suddenly, Alto warns Frankie that there are multiple monsters up ahead, and they look pretty strong this time. But Frankie responds that it's perfect, saying they've just been small fry so far and he didn't get a chance to show off. Alto confirms he's ready, and Frankie says the stronger they are, the more he'll enjoy taking them down. Their mission this time is to annihilate the monsters after all. The two continue pushing deeper into the tunnel. They encounter a massive creature, and Alto identifies it as a king lizardman, an A-rank monster. Their power and speed are incomparable to a normal lizardman, and Frankie notes they're boss-tier enemies for a mid-scale dungeon. He explains that hellhounds are A-rank because of their coordination, but these guys are A-rank individually. Then Alto looks ahead and realizes there are 7 of them waiting in the tunnel. Frankie asks if Alto is getting cold feet, but Alto responds that he can fight right now if Frankie says so. Frankie warns him that he's sure Alto already knows this, but not to let his guard down during the battle. Alto prepares himself as the King Lizardmen begin their approach. Meanwhile, Frankie declares he'll end this in one shot and unleashes Dragon's Breath, a powerful attack and high-level skill that should break through any barrier. Frankie proclaims this is the end as the massive blast of magic crashes into the King Lizardman. Frankie is stunned. His advanced skill didn't even chip them down. Alto observes that it's just like the hellhounds they fought before, noting how all of these monsters are shrouded in powerful barriers. Frankie calls out to push through anyway, pointing out that the barrier is already on the verge of breaking from his attack. The two continue their assault, shattering through the magical defenses as they engage the King Lizardmen in close combat. Then Alto and Frankie tear through the King Lizardmen with explosive force, their attacks landing with devastating impact as they cut down the monsters. The battle continues as more enemies appear ahead, and Frankie spots the next wave already approaching. The combat continues with more King Lizardmen falling. Frankie declares it's nothing he can't handle, but then realizes there are still 5 more left. He starts to call out to Alto, checking if he's okay, but thinks to himself that no matter how top of the class Alto was, this should be too much for a rookie. Suddenly, the remaining King Lizardmen crumble and collapse. Frankie's eyes go wide with shock as Alto calmly notes that he thinks that's all of them. Frankie just stares in disbelief, wondering who the hell this guy is. Alto doesn't even seem to care about the difference in their aptitude results. Alto points out there are still monsters ahead, and when he checks the map, he notices there's an A-rank monster sitting right in that location. At this rate, they'll reach the deepest part in no time. Meanwhile, Frankie gets all fired up, declaring he'll show Alto how to handle a powerful foe. Hell, bring on an S-rank if it comes to that. The two of them press deeper into the tunnel system. Eventually, they emerge into this massive open chamber where a circular opening high above lets in light from outside. The corpse of an enormous monster lies defeated on the ground, and Frankie observes they've come out into quite a large area. But then Alto stares ahead in complete shock. There's a massive dragon deep inside the tunnel, and this thing is twice as big as any dragon he's ever seen. Frankie theorizes that normally someone would think it kept absorbing mana from the magic stones left in the mine, and that's probably what's going on here, but it feels more likely that someone artificially enlarged it. Suddenly, the enormous armored dragon spots them and roars, demanding to know who the hell they are. The dragon spots the incoming attack and roars again, questioning if the soldier attacking is some kind of elite fighter. Frankie launches his fireball spell at the massive creature, and the explosion hits with tremendous force, engulfing the dragon in flames and smoke. The dragon takes the hit but immediately recovers, growling that their attack is coming. Then the enormous beast charges forward at full speed toward Alto and Frankie, its massive form barreling down on them with devastating momentum. Frankie unleashes Dragon Breath while Alto activates Fire Lance. Both fighters launch their most powerful offensive spells simultaneously, their magical attacks streaking through the air toward the charging dragon. The two devastating spells converge on their target. The combined magical assault explodes against the dragon with massive force, but when the smoke clears, Alto notes it's exactly as he expected, not even a scratch on the creature. He observes the incredible defense the dragon possesses. Meanwhile, the dragon mocks them, declaring that idiots like them won't be able to damage it with attacks like that. Then Alto quickly formulates a new strategy, instructing Frankie to fire on one point and aim for the base of the dragon's right leg. Frankie catches on, realizing that if this works they can take out both the barrier and one of its legs. Alto confirms he understands the plan. The two fighters coordinate their assault, with Frankie yelling to fire away and Alto responding as they both unleash focused attacks on the same target point. Their concentrated attacks slam into the dragon's leg, but Frankie exclaims in frustration that this thing is way too tough. Alto curses, noting they haven't even managed to break through the barrier yet despite their focused assault. Suddenly, Frankie sees the dragon preparing its counterattack and yells for Alto to cast defensive magic with everything he's got. The dragon's devastating counterstrike comes crashing down as Frankie screams from the overwhelming power of the attack. The dragon's devastating counterattack slams into them with overwhelming force. The explosion engulfs everything, the hexagonal barrier pattern shattering under the massive impact. Alto gets thrown back hard by the blast, and Frankie yells out asking if the newbie is okay. Alto recovers from the hit, and his expression shifts to something intense and focused. He realizes the power he's facing is on a whole different level, and he has to defeat it before the barrier gets completely destroyed. Alto prepares his counterattack, gathering dark energy around him and launching a massive strike back at the dragon. The battle continues with Alto dodging the dragon's attacks while Frankie watches from a distance. Meanwhile, someone calls out to the newbie as explosions rock the entire area. Frankie curses in frustration, realizing he can't get close enough to help in the fight. More explosions erupt as the dragon presses its assault. Then Frankie observes that the barrier has been destroyed. Alto knows if he takes one more hit, he's dead. He rapidly calls out his spell activations, casting Ice Wall and Fire Lance in quick succession. The combined spells slam into the dragon with devastating impact, finally breaking through its defenses with multiple explosive hits. But the dragon roars at Alto, demanding his attention and telling him not to dare ignore it. Its massive eye glares menacingly as it attacks with fury. Alto responds by rapidly activating Ice Wall and Fire Lance again. The spells converge on the dragon in a massive explosion of magical power. Suddenly, Alto launches himself at the dragon with incredible speed. He unleashes a relentless barrage of attacks, striking the creature over and over. Each hit lands with devastating force as Alto presses his advantage. The dragon takes the full brunt of the assault, multiple impacts showing the damage accumulating across its body. Alto fights to stay composed as the dragon keeps targeting him. The guy realizes whether it's instinct or intelligence. The creature knows he's weakened and vulnerable. The pressure mounts as he understands the reality of his situation. If he takes one more direct hit, he's dead. There's no time left to recast the barrier, but Alto refuses to give up. There has to be some clue, some way out of this. Then in that critical moment, a system notification appears before Alto's eyes. His auto-magic ability has leveled up, and a new skill is now available for use. Alto stares at the notification showing auto-magic has reached level 30. The required experience was so high that he'd completely forgotten leveling was even a thing. Alto calls out to Frankie, asking if he can keep the dragon's attention for a little while. He pulls out a scent ball, a condensed substance that monsters love, used by burning it. Frankie immediately casts Fireball to ignite it, though he yells at Alto for not handing something like this over sooner. Alto apologizes but says there may be a way to break through this situation. The dragon makes a dismissive sound as it advances, but Frankie just grins, saying Alto has finally learned to rely on his strength. Then the dragon launches a brutal assault with massive claw strikes toward Frankie's position. Frankie engages the dragon head-on, his expression fierce and determined, telling Alto not to just say a little, declaring he'll keep this up for hours if needed. Meanwhile, the dragon gets distracted by the scent ball as Frankie thanks Alto. Alto stares at the system notification in front of him. The simultaneous activation count has increased, and more importantly, instant scripting is now available. The notification confirms level 30 has been reached, unlocking instant scripting and increasing his simultaneous activation count to 32. Alto realizes this ability was already more powerful than a high-level skill even before, and with this upgrade, he might be able to achieve some truly off-the-charts firepower. Then Alto calls out to Frankie, apologizing for keeping him waiting. He explains that he's about to unleash a high-powered skill he's never used before. Since it's his first time using this, it might misfire, so he asks Frankie to be careful. Frankie yells back that he wasn't waiting and it's only been like 5 minutes. But Frankie looks on with growing concern. He can't believe that after showing off that much nonsensical power, Alto can still increase his output. Alto crouches down, hands outstretched, and activates Fire Lance. Suddenly, a massive Fire Lance erupts from Alto's position, far larger than anything seen before. The spell shatters the air with its raw power. Frankie can't believe his eyes, having never seen a Fire Lance this huge before. The enormous Fire Lance strikes the dragon with devastating force. The attack goes straight through the creature's defenses like they're nothing. Alto immediately calls for one more shot, not letting up for a second. The dragon gets sent flying backward by the overwhelming force of Alto's spell, its massive body completely unable to withstand the barrage. Alto's massive Fire Lance slams into the dragon again with devastating force. The enormous spell tears through the creature's defenses, the impact shattering the air around them. The explosion engulfs the dragon's body, and the massive creature goes sliding backward from the overwhelming power of the attack. Meanwhile, Frankie just watches in complete shock at the sheer scale of destruction unfolding in front of him. Frankie reflects on what he's witnessing. He used to be jealous of Alto, but now he's actually starting to feel moved by such overwhelming power, far beyond anything he'd imagined. But then Alto observes the scene carefully and notes that it seems the dragon wasn't defeated after all. Frankie yells out in frustration, demanding to know what the hell's going on since the dragon was supposed to be defeated. But suddenly, armored figures appear around them, and Alto moves to intercept as combat breaks out. Someone shouts to stay back while another casts Fireball at the approaching threats. The armored soldiers begin panicking and screaming as the situation spirals completely out of control. One soldier cries out for help while another exclaims in total confusion, and Alto just watches the chaos unfold with concern. Then one of the soldiers recognizes Alto and calls out to him, asking what he's doing in a place like this, never expecting to reunite under these circumstances. Frankie asks if the soldier is an acquaintance of Alto's, and Alto confirms the man is an old colleague. The soldier frantically explains they were just hired for the money and told to take care of the monsters here. Frankie demands to know who the hell these people are and what purpose they're even here for. The soldier cries out that he doesn't know anything, but Alto just stares him down intensely. The soldier insists he's telling the truth, that he doesn't know anything, but Alto tells him not to lie because he knows something. Alto declares he has no more use for the soldier, and Frankie coldly acknowledges this. Meanwhile, a female voice shouts frantically about how they were staying there until this morning, so the princess is still there. Someone mentions Minton and rumors that others were there too. Another voice calls out about mimics and confirms it's Minton. Then the dragon unleashes another devastating dragon breath attack, and someone realizes this can't be a coincidence. They decide they're heading back to Minton immediately, and the group confirms and prepares to move out. Frankie mentions he's glad they decided on the emergency return signal immediately, and right on cue, a flare shoots up into the sky. The soldiers around them notice the signal and immediately panic. One soldier yells at the others to run while they still can, but Alto rushes forward and cuts them down before they can escape. The soldiers are now bound and restrained on the ground. Charlotte looks concerned and says a quiet prayer for the princess to be safe. Alto confirms he'll have the military police pick up the captured soldiers later, and someone agrees with the plan. Then Alto and the others begin running toward Minton, leaving the bound mercenaries behind. They arrive at the castle to find a devastating scene. Bodies are scattered everywhere across the grounds and stairs. Alto observes the carnage and notes there's not a single person left alive. Frankie looks equally horrified by the massacre. Suddenly, voices call out for Alto, Frankie, and Captain Arthur from below. Lily and Mia appear, both shaken. Lily can't believe everyone was alive just this morning. Mia asks if there are any survivors, and Alto confirms there are before immediately giving orders. He declares the top priority is finding the princess and tells everyone to search the castle. The group spreads out across the castle grounds to begin their search. Meanwhile, the group searches through the castle and discovers bodies scattered everywhere. One of the female members observes that there are corpses everywhere they look. But then Alto notices something odd. He points out that the maids and servants weren't targeted, only the soldiers were killed. As they continue searching, a light-haired male captain appears. Alto calls out to him urgently, asking Eric what the meaning of this is and identifying him as the captain of the 3rd Royal Guard. Duke Minton stands there devastated by the massacre. Alto asks how this could have happened, the guy's struggling to process that everyone's actually dead. Meanwhile, the blonde Captain Eric reports to Captain Arthur that he's finished searching most of the other rooms, and the news isn't good. The princess is nowhere to be found, and Eric suspects she may have been abducted. Someone in the group points out that if there are no bodies, there's a high chance they're still alive. Alto immediately declares they don't have time to wait for reinforcements. They're going after them now. He yells his agreement, and both Mia and Lily respond affirmatively, ready to move out. The scene shifts to nighttime in a forest clearing. Suddenly, an explosive impact rings out and someone yells for the others to get out. Bound figures are lying on the ground, and voices call out names like Xiao Ding in distress. One person observes that it looks like they brought them here as planned. A bound captive shouts to be let go. Then Minister Wilo appears and Charlotte recognizes him immediately. She calls out his name even while bound. Wilo just laughs and asks what on earth she's talking about, saying it can't be helped. He orders someone to take off everything except for her arms. But Duke Minton's voice breaks through, and Wilo realizes his voice gave him away as he calls out to Princess Charlotte. Wilo delivers a cold speech about how the princess, the second most powerful person in this country, is now kneeling before him covered in blood. Charlotte demands to know why Wilo has resorted to such violence. Duke Minton smiles wickedly beside her. Wilo calmly explains this is no reckless act, everything was planned in advance. He reveals that this is exactly why he was able to lure her out here deep into the mountain. Wilo spreads his arms dramatically and declares that this plan will only be complete once he's killed Charlotte. Charlotte, still bound, fires back. If all he wants is to kill her, he should have just done it back at Minton Castle. But Wilo tells her not to be so impatient, reassuring the princess that he'll kill her properly. Charlotte demands to know why he had to drag everyone in Minton Castle into this. Wilo explains that before killing Charlotte, there's this one guy who's been a massive eyesore. He's planning to kill Arthur of the Royal Guard while he's at it, and he tells Charlotte she's gonna become his hostage. Charlotte reacts with total shock to the revelation. Charlotte begs Wilo to stop, but he just keeps going until now Arthur has repeatedly interfered with his noble plans. Someone nearby acknowledges this, and Wilo continues, saying the damage they've suffered is immeasurable. Then Charlotte realizes why Wilo plans to kill not only her but Captain Arthur as well. She asks if he planned all this just to ensure the prince's faction could move smoothly. Wilo confirms he's the type who prepares with the utmost caution, adding there's still much that needs to be done in the future after all. Wilo admits with a laugh that even he has to confess it was a perfect plan. After all, if Charlotte hears that the people are suffering from monsters, he knew she would send Arthur's squad away. Meanwhile, Alto and the others are shown positioned nearby. Wilo gloats that by attacking while the nuisances were gone, things have proceeded so easily. Carriages roll through the forest as Wilo continues mocking them. He's sure they're thinking there's no time to call backup even now. He calls it pretty pathetic. Nothing but a far sense of justice and a single squad. Wilo's face shows smug satisfaction as he remarks how pitiful it is, noting they came all this way just to turn themselves into monster fodder. But Charlotte shouts back that they're proud knights and nothing like him, demanding to know if he really thinks things will go exactly as he planned. Charlotte gets struck violently and cries out in pain. Wilo tells her to stop her insolent mouthing off, calling her a little brat. He coldly informs her that he can kill her whenever he wants right now. She's only alive because he allows it. Charlotte's face shows nothing but pain and tears as she endures the abuse. Meanwhile, Arthur's squad races through the forest on horseback, pursuing the trail left by Wilo's forces. One of the female knights calls out to the captain that something seems off. Despite there being no rain, the wheel tracks they're following are extremely distinct and easy to see. Alto examines the ground and concludes the obvious tracks were left intentionally. The squad realizes they're being lured into a trap. Someone points out that Wilo left such blatant traces of the attack behind, and they should assume this is meant to draw them in. Alto analyzes the situation further, noting that if Wilo's only goal was to kill Charlotte, there would have been no need to abduct her and cover things up this way. Considering the circumstances, they aren't just trying to kill the princess. Alto concludes it's possible they intend to eliminate the 7th Royal Guard along with her. Mia and Lily steel themselves for what's ahead. The pursuit leads them to a fork in the road, where the Shinwa tracks continue down both paths. Frankie realizes the enemy is trying to split them up. They analyze both routes. The right path ends at a mountain hut that would be perfect for hiding, while the left path leads to nothing but a mountain trail. Alto concludes that generally speaking, there's a higher chance the enemy is on the right path. Frankie decides on their strategy. He and Alto will take the right path while sending Mia and Lily to check the left. Mia eagerly confirms the orders. Alto warns them not to overdo it. And though he's uneasy about sending only the rookies, he acknowledges their abilities. He instructs them that if they find the princess, they should signal with a massive fire lance and the rest of the squad will rush there immediately. The group confirms they understand. Moving down the left path, the female knight comments that the princess might not be on this route since it's practically just a game trail now. But then Alto finds fresh wheel tracks in the grass. He calls out that he's found them. Ahead through the vegetation, Alto spots a light in the distance. Alto activates his fire lance to signal the others that the princess has been found. Through the trees, they can see Charlotte bound and held captive by Duke Wilo and a masked figure. Wilo calls out for them not to come any closer, commenting that it's the one who isn't Arthur. He says it doesn't matter though, since he planned on finishing them both off anyway. Alto recognizes the minister with shock. Wilo continues that the only difference is who goes first and who goes last. Charlotte shouts at Duke Wilo, demanding if he even realizes what he's doing. She declares that she is the princess, and what he's doing constitutes high treason. Wilo mutters the words back with a hint of concern on his face. But then the masked figure beside him smiles and asks who exactly can prove that. Wilo regains his composure and adds that none of them will be leaving here alive anyway. The masked figure begins chanting an incantation, speaking in an ancient magical language while forming hand gestures. Lily recognizes the magic circle and incantation forming, realizing something dangerous is coming. The masked figure completes the spell and activates Fireball. The Fireball attack launches with devastating force. Alto and Lily both react with shock as the magical assault comes at them. Meanwhile, Charlotte, still restrained by Wilo, laughs and asks if it isn't magnificent. The masked figure calls forth their servant, the great dragon Skulded, and the massive skeletal dragon emerges with a roar. The figure commands it to kill Alto and his group. The undead creature looms over them, its enormous bone structure casting shadows across the battlefield. Alto immediately responds by stacking his abilities, activating physical buff and magic buff before casting Fire Lance. The enhanced spell slams into the skeletal dragon with increased power. Alto strains from the effort while Lily continues fighting alongside him. Meanwhile, Alto analyzes the situation rapidly. Even with an attack powered by both physical and magical buffs at maximum power, the dragon didn't even flinch. But then he notices something important. It looks like this thing can't fly. He prepares another fire lance, adjusting his strategy based on this observation. Alto declares he'll crush the skeletal dragon's legs and take away its mobility. His enhanced attacks slam into the creature's limb structures with devastating force, explosions erupting where his magic connects with bone. Then Alto asks if Duke Wilo raised those monsters. Duke Minton comments that the monsters Alto has been fighting yesterday and today were quite tough, and Charlotte agrees they were quite tough indeed. Duke Wilo laughs and explains it's all thanks to that idiot dog who sold it to him so easily, allowing him to complete the project. Alto reacts with shock, realizing Eraso and Dog were involved in this scheme. The explanation continues. After analyzing its composition, they managed to create the strongest dragon. Duke Wilo boasts that they succeeded in making it the hardest of all. Then the revelation hits. The dragon in the mine was also part of this plan. The traces detected on that idiot's sword showed it was powerful enough to keep a legendary S-rank dragon zombie sealed away, a powerful barrier skill using lost magic of the old generation. Down below, Alto stands there processing the full scope of their conspiracy. Meanwhile, Duke Wilo dismisses the mine dragon as just a half-baked failure. Someone warns that Wiro let his guard down, but Duke Minton protests that he'd appreciate if they didn't lump that failure in with this perfected creation. Suddenly something happens that makes someone react with alarm. The skeletal dragon moves in the forest. Lily casts Dispel Shot, her magic striking the skeletal dragon hard. Alto yells for her to go, noting that the barrier is gone. Lily charges forward as someone activates Holy Sword, the weapon glowing with sacred energy as she closes in for the attack. But Duke Wilo just laughs, declaring he wasn't being careless. His barrier magic has achieved complete fusion with the dragon's body tissues, and he proclaims that no matter what they do, it's useless. Lily stares in shock at the dragon being completely unscathed despite her attack. She realizes that no matter how much she tries to nullify it, this barrier is fundamentally different from anything she's faced before. Duke Wilo boasts about what he's obtained, the massive frame, the research, the destructive results and power. He notes how impressive it all is, mentioning he wasn't able to gain much combat experience out in the open after all. Someone comments that it's time to wrap things up. Then Duke Wilo commands the skeletal dragon to finish Alto, calling out to Great Dragon Scolded as the creature unleashes a devastating attack. Lily yells out a warning about dragon breath and tells everyone to get back, immediately activating Ice Wall. Divine Barrier goes up as well. Alto realizes the situation is bad, like really bad, between the heat wave and the massive range. The attack spread is way too wide to dodge. Then the dragon's breath attack slams into them with explosive force, blowing everyone back. Someone calls out for Miss Lily. Alto yells for both Lily and Mia as the blast tears through their defensive position. Ice Wall activates again as someone asks if Lily and Mia are okay. Lily responds that she's alright despite taking some damage, but someone tells Alto to forget about checking on them and focus on finding a more efficient way to handle this, reminding him about how they dealt damage to the Hellhound by hitting its weak point in the mouth. Alto gets called a cost-efficiency nut but starts thinking it through. He remembers they beat the dragon zombie by destroying its core weak point, so even this thing must have at least one vulnerable spot. Alto realizes that Wilo splitting the pursuers into two groups means the dragon isn't completely invincible, but he's struggling with how to actually find the weakness in time. Normally he'd have time for trial and error, and executing complex processes requires combining the syntax perfectly. He wonders if he can even write such complex spell text in such a short time frame, or if he should use auto magic to spam skills and record the damage. Then it hits him his new skill that he's never used before, instant scripting. It's because of a different method, some kind of new approach he hasn't tried yet. Alto activates instant transcription. The spell's designed to shower the opponent's entire body with fireball and calculate the damage from each hit, identifying the exact spot where it deals the most damage. Magical text and calculations start appearing rapidly. Alto realizes something that would have taken him hours to complete before is happening almost instantaneously. Alto activates Weakness Scan, and an observer notes that he's firing 32-shot bursts over and over without stopping. Lily remarks that he's basically peppering the dragon's entire body with attacks, hitting it everywhere at once. But someone dismisses it as just a barrage of numbers, nothing that'll actually hurt the thing. Duke Wilo scoffs that no matter how many of those sparks Alto fires, it won't even count as a massage for the dragon. Meanwhile, the scan data processes rapidly, analyzing every single point of impact across the skeletal dragon's massive frame. Then the system identifies the critical vulnerability, the base of the wings. Alto activates Fire Lance, targeting the weak point he just discovered. The concentrated magical spear launches directly at the dragon's wing base with pinpoint accuracy. The Fire Lance strikes home with devastating precision. Multiple impacts slam into the dragon's vulnerable wing joints, causing massive damage. Lily and Mia watch as the attacks tear through the creature's defenses like they're nothing. But the assault continues. Holy Sword activates, followed by Ice Lance. The combined magical bombardment hammers the dragon's weak points relentlessly, each spell striking exactly where it needs to for maximum effect. Then the dragon collapses. Someone shouts that they won, celebrating Alto's success with pure excitement. Duke Wilo just stares in disbelief, declaring it impossible. There's no way this just happened. The masked figure cries out in pain as the undead dragon crumbles beneath them. Duke Wilo curses, insisting this isn't how it's supposed to be, that everything's gone wrong. Lily casts ice shots straight at Duke Wilo, and the Duke screams as the attack slams into him. He yells at them, demanding to know what the hell they're doing. Then Lily follows up with Ice Hand, completely restraining him. Meanwhile, Alto rushes over to check on Princess Charlotte, asking if she's alright. Charlotte's lying there injured and exhausted, barely able to get any words out. She calls out Alto's name weakly. Alto rushes to her side and tells her she's safe now, asking if she's hurt anywhere. Charlotte reaches toward him, calling his name again. Lily and Mia are watching the whole scene with shocked expressions plastered on their faces. Alto looks equally stunned as Charlotte clings to him, and she thanks him over and over. Alto's mind races with worry about whether he'll be charged with lèse-majesté for this entire situation, but he pushes the thought aside. He tells her that anyway, he's just glad the princess is safe. Then Charlotte tells Alto that when he addresses her, he should call her Charlotte. She adds that she knew she was right to recommend him for the royal guard. Alto just sits with her quietly. Later that night, the two remain together under the stars, Charlotte's heart clearly racing from everything that happened. Meanwhile, at the Wellesley estate, an official confirms that the information appears to be reliable. News breaks that Minister Wilo has been arrested. At the same time, someone else is processing the full scope of this conspiracy. The Skulldead was a genuine S-rank monster that even top fighters would struggle to defeat. The entire plan involved spending an absolute fortune to prepare the Skulldead and organize the strike team for the attack on Minton Castle, and it was all supposed to secure a minister's seat in return. But instead, everything fell apart. The goal had been to eliminate both the princess and Alto. Someone reports to their master about the person who defeated the Skulldead. The monster should have been even more powerful after being enhanced, something that not even Arthur and a few others together could break through easily. Then the servant reveals that apparently his name is Alto. The master screams in horror at hearing this name, completely losing composure. Meanwhile, the officials continue their discussion. Minister Wero has been arrested as the mastermind behind the series of incidents and reportedly remains completely silent about other crimes. Someone tells the master that atonement is unlikely to be accepted, but the master yells at them not to be foolish. Even if criminal charges don't stick, the public knowledge of cozying up to the minister is damning enough. If the faction itself collapses, the dream of becoming a minister will be completely ruined. Suddenly, someone interrupts by calling out. At the Wellesley estate, Alto's father sits at his desk working through documents, clearly frustrated. He mutters about how nothing is going right and curses the situation. But then his expression shifts as he realizes something. He has the perfect stepping stone right in front of him. He decides that if things have come to this point, there's no need to stick with the prince's faction anymore. A few days later at the royal palace, Princess Charlotte returns in an elegant flowing dress. Eric, the captain of the 3rd Royal Guard, greets her return. Charlotte bows deeply and apologizes profusely, but Eric asks her to lift her head. Charlotte explains that the 3rd Royal Guard was wiped out protecting her. As the one who must unite and lead the people, her condolences have been properly received. Charlotte looks troubled, but someone tells her that the guards were simply fulfilling their duties as knights. Her safety is the greatest reward they could receive. Charlotte's expression shows the weight of those words hitting her. Meanwhile, someone asks Arthur if he did well rescuing the princess. The response comes back that it was actually the rookies who defeated the Skulldead and rescued the princess. Another observer notes that this year's rookies are quite impressive, then tells Arthur he truly did a magnificent job. Arthur agrees. Then Charlotte emphasizes that if it weren't for them, Wilo would have taken her life. Someone states this achievement is worthy of a medal. The official tells everyone they're dismissing for now so everyone can get some rest. Another person says they're going to make their report now, and they're told to report the details regarding Arthur. Alto stands with Lily, Mia, and the others as they all respond enthusiastically. Alto, Charlotte, and Mia walk away from the palace together. Lily watches them and calls out to Alto. Someone observes that they really took it out of themselves, but it looks like they'll finally be able to get some rest today. Lily's expression shows concern as she watches Alto leave with the others. But then Alto finds himself confronted by a man with a ponytail and glasses in formal attire standing in the palace courtyard. Alto's on the ground looking up at him, and the man standing over him is his father, Marquis Wellesley. Marquis Wellesley tells Alto that he has done well to overcome those hardships and become quite respectable. He declares that as Alto is now, he shall allow him to return to the proud house of Wellesley. Alto just stares up at his father in shock. Alto tells his father that returning is not an option, Marquis Wellesley. Meanwhile, in the distance, Lily and Mia watch the whole confrontation unfold. Alto continues, stating that he has comrades now who actually believe in him, and that's why he no longer needs to be a member of the Wellesley family. Marquis Wellesley yells at Alto, demanding to know just how much more ungrateful he intends to be. But Alto calmly excuses himself and walks away from his father. Later on, Lily mentions to Alto that he's finally breaking ties with that family, and Alto responds with a simple acknowledgement. Then the scene shifts to an ornate palace chamber where Prince Richard Charlotte lounges on an elaborate chair. He tells the man kneeling before him that he's impressed the guy even has the nerve to show his face. Marquis Wellesley bows low before the prince in the lavish room. The prostrating man admits he underestimated the strength of the 7th Imperial Guard. Prince Richard asks if the man is also to blame for Wilo's blunder. The man explains that it was Duke Wilo who failed the operation, though he was the one who provided Skulldead. Prince Richard mentions he heard the preparations were more than sufficient. The man responds that the presence of that rookie knight was a significant factor, and the knight's name is Alto, appointed through the princess's recommendation. Prince Richard acknowledges Alto's name with interest. Someone notes that Alto crushed the House of Bones scheme, but they never imagined he would drive even Wilo to his downfall. Prince Richard states that it's the results that matter. He points out that the princess is still alive and the right of succession is leaning toward her. He asks how the man plans to settle this situation. The dark-haired man continues his report to Prince Richard, declaring that the princess must be killed, even though she may be a commoner now. Meanwhile, in the lower portion of the chamber, a blonde noblewoman responds dismissively, saying that talk is cheap. But the man counters, explaining that when it comes to the Wellesley family, no one surpasses him in gathering information, since Alto was once the eldest son of his household. The woman tells him she won't trust him until she sees results with her own eyes, demanding he prove his usefulness to her. The man bows and confirms he understands, stating he'll begin the preparations immediately. Then, a few days later at the Wellesley estate, someone bursts in asking the master if it's really true. The dark-haired man responds that it's no problem and in fact he needs to cause a bit of commotion. But Marquis Wellesley protests intensely, warning that if they do that, the country might fall into a state of chaos beyond their control. The dark-haired man explains the plan calmly. The goal is to disperse the knights away from the royal capital by selecting someone usable within the range of their control. He adds that they don't even need to defeat the knights since they're nothing more than a distraction after all. The dark-haired man sits at an ornate desk as someone responds that they understand and will comply. In the next moment, someone has collapsed at their desk. A servant notices and asks what's wrong, calling out to their lord. Later, Marquis Wellesley wishes the dark-haired man good luck in battle as he prepares to depart. The dark-haired man walks through the estate interior, his footsteps echoing through the halls. Someone tells him good luck and he acknowledges the sentiment briefly. As he continues onward, the man's expression grows serious. He reflects that it seems he too must prepare for the worst. He declares they'll use the great sinner Camilla as part of their contingency plan. The scene shifts deep inside a dark mining facility. Criminals are forced to spend their days in brutal labor. They dig through the rock day and night searching for magic stones, and among the prisoners is Bon Bone, the guy who got caught poisoning people and sabotaging the night exams. He's a total mess now, sweating and struggling just to lift his pickaxe as he collapses onto the rough cave floor, looking completely drained and broken by the work. He can't even hold himself up anymore and starts losing it when he sees a cut on his leg. He screams that it hurts and freaks out about germs getting into the wound, saying his whole leg is going numb while the other prisoners just stand around watching him cry. One guy asks if he's okay, but the other just complains that he's going to be useless dead weight on the job, so they decide to haul him off to the infirmary. One of the workers tells a guy he calls Mr. High and Mighty to quit standing around and help carry him back to the medical bay, which is just a cold room with a few empty beds for the workers. The doctor finishes up a quick bandage job, but Bon Bone is still acting like it's the end of the world, yelling in pain the second his leg gets touched. As the doctor starts walking away, Bon Bone gets angry and shouts that he hasn't even been given any special herbs or healing potions yet, but the doctor doesn't seem to care. Bon Bone keeps bragging about being the heir to the House of Bourne, threatening to have a lowly worker like him fired if he doesn't bring the medicine right now. Bon Bone looks back at the worker in confusion. The guy is just standing there with his arms crossed, acting like he's got something to say, which makes Bon Bone snap at him while sitting on the edge of the medical bed. He asks the guy what his point is and the worker looks him dead in the eye, pointing out the dark brand on Bon Bone's neck. He says judging by that mark, his crimes must have been pretty serious, but Bon Bone just turns his head away, telling the man to mind his own business. He doesn't want to talk about it until the worker reveals he has the exact same brand on his own neck. He looks pretty worn out as he explains that they're both carrying the same mark, causing Bon Bone to go quiet. He looks stressed and starts sweating as the weight of the conversation hits him, and the guy explains that the brand means they've personally pissed off the royal family. He tells him that sentences for people like them only get longer and never shorter, even if he has connections to a big noble house. So the worker tells him straight up that he should stop expecting any help from his family's influence. It's a total reality check that leaves Bon Bone shaking in fear. He can't believe what he's hearing and starts to freak out, realizing he's stuck here for good, and he finally loses it, clutching his head and screaming. He wonders why someone from his noble family has to suffer like this, and then he starts blaming Alto for everything, claiming it's all that kid's fault for showing up at the exam in the first place. The worker's eyes go wide and he starts sweating, looking completely caught off guard as he yells, asking if Bonbon just said the name Alto because he knows exactly who that is. He mentions the kid was only at the exam because the princess recommended him. Bonbon just sits on his bed, looking miserable and calling Alto a filthy commoner who ruined his entire life. The worker suddenly gets worked up, standing over him and shouting, asking if he was also framed by that incompetent kid. Bonbon looks up in surprise, wondering if the same thing happened to this guy, and the worker starts ranting about how if that fool hadn't shown up, he'd already have an invitation from the royal court to be a knight. He's clearly living in a total fantasy world and he just starts losing it, grabbing his head and screaming in the middle of the room. Bonbon just sits there in silence, watching the guy have a complete meltdown until he looks down, finally admitting to himself that even though he wants revenge, he can't ignore how strong the kid actually was. It clearly eats at him, but Bonbon tells the worker that by the end of the fight, the guy he saw was anything but incompetent. It's a tough thing for him to say, but he remembers seeing Alto pull off top-tier magic that even he can't do yet. He looks pretty defeated, thinking about how a genius like himself got outclassed so easily. The worker realizes Alto must have been hiding that kind of power for a long time without anyone noticing. He just scoffs at Bonbon, calling him a total idiot for being so blind to it. Then the guy gets this dark, creepy smile on his face. He tells Bonbon not to worry because they have their own ways of doing things in a place like this. The worker leans in close with a nasty grin. He starts whispering a shady plan to Bonbon, suggesting they have their own ways of handling things in the mine. Lily stands alone in the courtyard, just thinking about the past. She remembers how her entire world flipped upside down the second that aptitude test ended. Suddenly, she was stuck in back-to-back meetings with the Knight Commander and the King. It was a lot to take in, being told she had world-class talent out of nowhere. She felt totally out of place since she couldn't even use magic yet. The more people started expecting big things from her, the more she started to freak out inside. The pressure was just becoming too much to handle. But then she finally saw Alto again. They both ended up at the Knight Academy together, determined to keep the promise they made as kids. Reality didn't care about their promises, though. A training sword goes flying through the air as things take a turn for the worse. Lily drops to her knees, completely out of breath. She's losing every single practice match and realizes that having high potential doesn't mean she actually knows how to fight. She stares ahead with total focus, telling herself she has to keep the promise she made to Alto. Her only choice is to just keep practicing until she gets it right. She starts training like a maniac, enough to make everyone around her worry, but all that work pays off when her holy magic starts evolving at a crazy speed. By his third year at the academy, Alto was completely undefeated, and Lily wasn't far behind. She gained so much confidence that she finished at the very top of the knight selection exam. It didn't take long for her to officially earn the title of knight, making it through the entire process without hitting a single snag. But the best part was yet to come. Alto ended up becoming a knight right after her, which meant the childhood dream they shared of serving together had actually come true. They were finally standing on the same level. Lily couldn't hide her joy, feeling like every drop of blood, sweat, and tears she put into her training had finally paid off. But that happy feeling didn't last forever. As they started going on real missions, Lily began to see the massive difference in their skills. Watching Alto and Mia handle intense battles made her realize something was wrong. She stands there in the shadows of her own thoughts, worried that she isn't strong enough and is only going to end up holding Alto back. It's even more obvious now that Alto has caught the eye of the princess. Lily watches him walk away, feeling like he's heading to a place far beyond her reach. She looks down, feeling completely discouraged. She can't help but think about how the gap between her and Alto has grown so wide lately. Her thoughts are cut short when she hears Alto calling her name. He and Mia show up and ask if she's already been waiting there for a while. Lily snaps out of it and greets them both, putting on a smile while explaining she just got there a bit early and was waiting for them to arrive. The group walks through the courtyard as Mia tells Alto she still thinks it's amazing he's getting a medal. Lily chimes in too, saying she can hardly believe he's being honored for saving the princess during that whole mess, and Alto just rubs the back of his head, looking a little embarrassed. He admits he actually feels pretty bad about being the only one in the group getting a special award for it. He explains that they only made it through because of everyone's combined strength. To him, getting a solo medal just feels like it's a bit much, but Mia isn't having any of that modesty. She looks him right in the eye and tells him he played the biggest part out of anyone there, so she doesn't think the award is weird at all. Lily backs her up immediately, pointing out that during the heat of the fight she and Mia were barely even able to buy a little bit of time, and she goes on to say that if Alto hadn't stepped up, the entire 7th Guard and even the princess herself probably would have been wiped out. Mia tells him that's exactly why giving him a medal is the right move. Alto still seems a bit unsure, but Lily just smiles and agrees that he definitely deserves the recognition. The scene shifts to the official ceremony at the royal castle where everyone is gathered. The king sits on his throne and calls out for Alto to step forward, so Alto feels the pressure, so Lily gives him a quick touch to calm him down. He stands up straight with his hand over his heart. He gives a firm reply to the king, letting him know he's ready to receive the honor. Alto kneels at the base of the throne as the ceremony officially begins, and the king looks down at him, listing off how Alto saved Princess Charlotte twice. He tells him that by taking out those 2 S-rank monsters, he stopped a massive disaster from hitting the kingdom, so the king asks the room if everything he said is right. He mentions the council is in total agreement about these wins, and tells Alto he's officially awarding him a medal. The crowd starts buzzing, with some nobles whispering about how crazy it is that the prince's faction actually agreed to honor a guy from the princess's side. The king just smiles and tells Alto the kingdom is expecting great things from him as he keeps serving the country. Alto gives a firm "yes sir" from his knees, but then Charlotte starts walking down the stairs and tells him he can stand up now. She steps right up to him and starts pinning the award to his chest, making him look a little caught off guard, and she gives him a big smile, explaining that the chancellor usually does this. She admits she pushed to do it herself since it's nice to get her way for once. While people in the back keep gossiping about why she's the one handling the medal, the king announces that 2 people will be coming forward to offer their congrats, so Charlotte finishes the presentation, standing there with Alto as the rest of the ceremony continues. Charlotte tells the room that Alto saved her life on 2 different occasions, and she wants to use this moment to give him her sincere thanks for everything he's done. She points out how even though he's a rookie, he completely trashed Minister Wero's secret plans and did an incredible job as a knight, leaving everyone impressed. She adds that the whole 7th Guard, including Lily, handled their business perfectly without a single thought for their own safety. She says Alto's bravery is basically a textbook example for every knight in the kingdom, and she tells them they're the ones who are going to be carrying the future of the country. She smiles and says she's expecting huge things from young talent like them as they keep winning, so she bows her head while Richard starts walking toward them, looking cold as he passes by Leto. The nobles watching the whole thing start to get restless. They're all whispering to each other, asking why the prince is actually going to congratulate a guy from the princess's faction. One of them even asks if this is really a good move, but Richard doesn't show any emotion as he gets closer, which really confuses Charlotte. She's standing there sweating, thinking the Richard she knows would never be nice to her team, especially not in front of all the nobles who support him. She knows he's been working hard to pull more nobility to his side and expand his power, so he should be showing off his own people instead of doing this. While she tries to figure it out, Alto drops back down to one knee to show respect as the prince stands right in front of him. Richard tells Alto he can stand up and says he wants to start by offering his congratulations. He goes on to say Alto's achievements are spectacular and that he's done enough to impress the council. But then he glances over at the crowd with a sharp look in his eyes, and the whole room feels the weight of the moment as everyone watches the 2 of them standing on the carpet. Richard points out that since Alto is just a young commoner and the youngest person to ever get this honor, there are definitely people who won't be okay with it. The nobles start whispering that it's true, and Charlotte can feel the whole vibe of the room changing instantly. The noise from the crowd grows as everyone starts doubting the situation while Alto just stands there. Richard smirks and says this could make people think the council isn't being fair, even though they all voted for him. So he throws his arms out and asks Alto to show all the lords his real power, the kind of power the council backed, adding with a mean grin that he should do it to protect his own honor too. Alto looks dead serious and tells the room he's doing this for the sake of the council's honor. He knows the council is packed with the king, the princess, and all these high-ranking nobles, so a commoner like him doesn't really have the right to say no to them. Charlotte is standing there shaking, looking like she's really worried about how things are going while Alto looks over at her. Realizing that if he turns this down, it's basically like he's failing to protect her and the rest of the royal family's name, and he can tell by the look on Charlotte's face that she wasn't even in on this plan. Just then, a pair of boots steps forward with a loud thud on the floor. Alto looks Richard right in the eyes and says he gets it, and that he's actually honored to have the chance to show what he's got. The crowd starts talking, saying it's no surprise he was top of his class and that he definitely has nerves of steel to stand up like that. But then Richard gets a smug look on his face and asks if anyone in the room is willing to volunteer to help prove Alto's skills. And Charlotte starts thinking they might be in the clear since no one is moving, but a hand suddenly shoots up, leaving Alto totally caught off guard. Marquis Wellesley steps up and raises his hand, telling the room that with his history as a knight captain, he's more than ready to meet the prince's expectations. Richard laughs and talks him up, reminding everyone how the Marquis is a legendary warrior who earned his title in a single generation, and the rest of the nobles are already nodding along. But the stakes are way higher than just a fight. If the Marquis wins this, Richard's whole faction is going to get a massive boost in power, meaning Charlotte is stuck in a lose-lose situation, because even if Alto wins, Richard just saves face and moves on to a different way to have her killed. And with the trap set, Richard tells everyone to head over to the arena so they can get this duel started right away. The air gets heavy as Alto, his father, and the prince all lock eyes, each of them heading into this match with their own secret plans. Once they're out on the platform, Wellesley tells Alto to stop holding back and hit him with everything he's got, and Alto just replies that he's planned on doing that from the start. As the official yells for the match to begin, Alto notices a weird smile on his father's face, a habit the guy has when he's secretly happy about something, even though no magic is being cast yet. Alto opens up the fight by launching 16 fire lances all at once, sending a massive wave of heat straight at his father. But Wellesley just stands there calmly and shows off a new move called Drain Hole, making Alto's entire attack vanish into thin air. Wellesley stands his ground as that massive black orb just sits there in the middle of the arena, and Alto can't believe it. All 16 of his fire lances got sucked right into that thing like they were nothing, while the nobles watching mention it's their first time ever seeing dark magic in person. It's a rare sight because almost nobody uses dark magic as their main specialty, mostly because it's a weird system where the more you learn it, the more you lose your talent for every other kind of magic. But Wellesley clearly didn't care about the cost. Wellesley tells his son to go down using his own move, right as the Drain Hole skill finishes converting the fire into dark energy, and fires it all back. Alto gets blown back as the dark beams tear up the ground around him, barely keeping his feet while Wellesley just adjusts his glasses, thinking that 16 shots is exactly the kind of power he expected from a medal winner. But Alto is stuck wondering what kind of crazy language his father is even chanting in. Just as he tries to reset, a huge warning screen pops up from his detection magic, alerting him to a massive attack from a skill he can't even identify. He panics and throws up an ice wall to try and block whatever is coming, hoping that a solid defense will give him a second to breathe. But suddenly everything starts spinning. Alto realizes that compared to this feeling, even being poisoned felt like a walk in the park as his vision starts to go dark. Alto is completely spent, gasping for air on the ground while his body just gives out on him. Wellesley stands over him like a shadow, telling him he's never going to beat him as long as he lives. The ref finally calls the match, shouting for the duel to end while people in the crowd yell out for Alto, and later on, Alto finally starts to come around, waking up in a bed with his head wrapped in bandages. The girls are right there waiting, and Charlotte asks if he's in any pain now that he's finally awake. Alto rubs his head and tells them he feels pretty sluggish, but he thinks he's going to be okay. Charlotte lets out a sigh of relief, just happy to see that he isn't in worse shape after that hit. But she needs to know what happened. Lily mentions that to everyone watching, it just looked like he started suffering out of nowhere. Alto admits he doesn't totally get it himself, but Wellesley was definitely chanting some really strange stuff. So Lily starts wondering if it's the same old-school magic from the Skull Dead incident, something she couldn't understand back then either. Alto sits up in bed thinking about the fight, and he admits that while he can't be totally sure, the sound of the magic felt different, way more ominous than anything he's heard before. He tells the girls his detection magic actually flagged some uncategorizable power being used, so he figured it was an incantation. But then his vision just started flickering, and his head felt totally fuzzy, like he was about to lose it. A magic warning screen flashes in his mind as he looks down, and he admits that even now, he doesn't fully get what happened to him during that match. Charlotte, Lily, and Mia just sit there by his bedside in total silence for a second, letting the gravity of the situation sink in while Alto looks over at Charlotte and apologizes, feeling bad that things turned into such a mess right after he finally got his medal. Charlotte just smiles and tells him there's no reason to say sorry, because that medal proves people recognize what he's done, and losing one duel doesn't change his past achievement, which makes Alto feel a lot better. But then her expression gets serious, and she tells everyone she's absolutely sure that Richard had something to do with how the duel went down. She explains that Richard was the one who told his faction on the council to make the medal vote unanimous, basically just to set the stage so the duel could happen in the first place. Richard usually hates wasting time and skips any ceremony he thinks is useless, so for a guy like that to put in this much effort, Charlotte knows there's definitely a bigger plan at play. She closes her eyes and says she just wants a country where everyone can be happy without losing a single soul. And to make that dream real, she doesn't even care if she has to give up on becoming the ruler. Charlotte looks down and admits that if Richard ever actually becomes king, the whole kingdom is going to fall into a dark age, which is the complete opposite of the ideal world she wants to build for her people. And she looks up with total determination to ask everyone if they're willing to help her stop that from happening. So Alto immediately puts his hand over his heart, swearing that even though he's just one guy, he'll do everything he can to make her dream a reality.